Hello, 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 hello. What are we doing today? What are we doing today? We're gonna be doing more ice coverage, all right? Because story is evolving. I like the story. I like covering the situation. It's really interesting. There's been some interesting developments. Apparently, new footage has come out, which I wanted to talk about today. Because a lot of people are saying that this somehow justifies a police officer. I still don't believe so. It gives some new talking angles. It gives some new perspectives, but I don't think that it justifies a police officer in any way. Um, so yeah, for the most part, most of the stream today is gonna be ice content. Um, it's probably not gonna be anything else but that unless you guys want to submit topics for me to cover because there's literally nothing else going on. I'm gonna go to Minnesota soon. Should I pull in front of an ICE agent with my car? Uh, yeah, sure, absolutely. Anyways, I'm eating chocolate right now. I'm sorry. I'm eating chocolate right now. Um, um, I don't really know what we're doing to be honest. I told GildedPoo an hour ago that I wanted to debate him on stream. GildedPoo, as far as I know, is the type of person that has never considered himself to be bitch made. So I expect him to come knocking at my door anytime to have this argument if he genuinely believes in his position. Um, which I believe he does. To be very clear, I'm not calling him bad faith. I just don't think he like formally understands what he's talking about, and he's going like off on this pro ice stuff. Well, maybe he's not even pro ice to be fair. Maybe he just thinks that the woman was justified, or that the cop was or the ice agent, not the cop, was justified in utilizing self defense because of the typical his life was in immediate danger, conservative, bandwagon talking point. Which I understand why. I understand why he would argue that, but typically that would be purely an emotional perspective. It's like because you feel like this person's life was in immediate danger, he is justified in taking the life of another person and even making fun of the person due to political alignments. Um, I think there's a lot more to it. I think that if you're a federal agent, right, because there's caveats to this. It's not just about individual and individual crime, right? Individual and individual like retaliation. It should like these people are federal agents that should be held up to an extremely high standard. However, that's not the case. These are people that are being hired with minimal precautions. They are given huge incentives. A lot of these people might have political motivations or racial biases. A lot of these people are going to have not enough practical experience in dealing with these situations or trained formally the same way that a police officer would. Not that police officers are much better. And when you take all these things into consideration, you would think that this entire situation was in fact preventable. Even if you want to apply blame to this, lady and say that she did instigate or she did escalate or she did, had or she did have like an immediate threat to this individual, or if she was an immediate threat to this individual's life, most agents are typically, or like most, I want to say, and it's been going around on Twitter. People have been citing stuff all over the place. Most agents, most law enforcement agents as well, I'm including like police officers as well, are typically trained not to shoot at moving vehicles to minimize the risk of property damage or to minimize the risk of other people getting injured from stray bullets or even a moving vehicle if it continues to move after the person is shot. Which there is actually a lot of body cam situations of this occurring. Somebody shoots at somebody in a vehicle and it causes the situation to get out of control. I don't know. As far as I'm aware, as well, if I were to like research this, to be very very clear, I might be wrong on this. I might just be recalling something different. But as far as I'm aware, you're actually this is like a recent this is like a recent thing too that like this is a recent law that has been passed in multiple jurisdictions, or like a recent I want to say what's the word that I'm looking for? Change that some jurisdictions have like implemented to avoid property damage. Cops aren't are like are no longer allowed to shoot at moving vehicles or moving targets or whatnot. As far as I'm aware, I think that's recent. It's not like a thing that's existed for like over 20 years. But I'm gonna double check myself real quick right now. When yeah, new law. Let's see. I need to correct myself. And there's nothing that I can find because every Every everything is ice coverage. Everything is ice coverage when I try to research this. Everything is just ice. Yeah, everything is just ice. Everything is just ice. I can't find anything about this. I can't find anything about this so far. I found a law journal. I found a law journal that was published in September of 2010. I found a law journal that was published in September of 2010. Great. Shooting at moving vehicles. Introduction. Firing in response to imminent threat of danger. Threats to officers or to bystanders. Qualified immunity. Defense. Shooting when the danger has passed. Resources and references. Somebody could probably correct me. A number of municipal police departments have adopted policies that restrict or prohibit officers shooting at moving vehicles. One notable such policy is that they adopted by the Los Angeles Police Department. So when were these policies adopted? What was the year? Provisions of restriction shooting at motor vehicles, Chicago. Date, October 2000, 1999, 2004, 2003, uh, February 2005, July 2004, March 2004. Was compiled in April 2005. So, I mean, I guess in terms of like statutes, or I guess in terms of like laws or prohibitions or whatnot, whatever word you want to utilize here. Like this is relatively new. This isn't something that has been like in law, at least what I would consider being in law for like a long period of time. And I might be this might be completely dumbheaded fucking take from me because I'm not a lawyer and I'm not practiced in law. I consider anything past I consider anything like past 2000 to be relatively recent, and anything like before 1980 to be like common law. If that makes any sense, or like commonly accepted law that everybody knows about. Um, Cops can't see you, stand still. There was never an angle that justifies. It's literally all cope. Yeah. There's never an angle that justifies like any shooting here. But if GildedPoo, like I could go into this, debate blind, um, and argue like a dumbass. I'm not going to. However, I am pulling up research on the side as I speak, as I talk about the situation, to actually argue my points, because there's a couple of lines of logic, or like paths that I want to go down to and argue. I'm gonna be vague about them as to not give away what my ideas are, what my arguments are. But I want to argue, is like ICE presence necessary? Essentially, I'm gonna argue support for ICE presence. I would like to like also argue whether this was justified or not, whether this was murder or not, whether this a police officer deserves to be punished for his actions or not, right? All stuff like that, and stuff adjacent to that as well. Um, that's the stuff that I mainly care about. I don't really care about my like the vibes based stuff. Which, speaking of, there's an immediate like thing that I need to address. I made this tweet earlier today. I think most of you are watching right now probably have seen this already. Um, I said ICE agents aren't allowed to make detentions, by the way. Which, by the way, they're not allowed to make detentions just in a vacuum, right? Like if you're like they can only make detentions if it involves their jurisdiction, as far as I'm aware. So I'm going to research this in the moment. When when are ICE officers allowed to make detentions, or to make yeah, like to make detentions, like detain you, arrest you? Um, let's see. ICE officers can detain, oh, and this is an AI overview, but I'm obviously gonna dig into this deeper. Can detain individuals when they have reasonable suspicion of unlawful presence, probable cause, or a valid warrant. Often for those violating immigration laws or posing public safety risks, even without a judicial warrant. But swallow constitutional rules, especially in private homes where judicial warrants are needed for entry. Detentions happen during consensual encounters, investigations, or for those with criminal histories, with the rules varying by location and circumstance. Uh, so I want to like obviously correct the record, because this was a vibes based tweet that I made. I believe, at least from at a surface level glance, that for the most part, ICE agents do not have like the authority to just give you detainment, like within like typical within typical jurisdictions. They can only detain you if they have reason to believe that you were like violating immigrations or customs laws, if that makes any sense. Let's see. So I'm gonna go to their website, ice.gov. I wish that I had actual like statutes on hand. Let's see. Why does ICE arrest people and do they need a warrant? ICE officers and agents are on the streets every day, prioritizing public safety by locating, arresting, and removing criminal aliens and immigration violators from our neighborhoods. ICE does not need judicial warrants to make arrests. Like all other law enforcement officers, ICE officers and agents can initiate consensual encounters to speak with people, briefly detain aliens when they have reasonable suspicion that the aliens are illegally present in the United States. Now, to be clear, this is going to be like I don't know if the language is extremely important for for the law. I don't know if it's exclusively aliens that they're allowed to detain. If they have reasonable suspicion, I don't know if maybe there is like a further statute that states that they can detain anybody. Given like given like I want to say other caveats like obstruction or posing a public safety risk. I'm not sure if they can act on behalf of police officers in case, for example, there's somebody jaywalking and they're committing a crime. And to be fair, I'm being like very loose right now so that I can get a general idea of what exactly I'm going to be researching. Anyways, arrest people they believe are illegal aliens. ICE officers and agents can also detain and search people crossing the border. All right. All aliens who violate U.S. immigration law are subject to arrest and detention, regardless of their criminal histories. Those with final orders of removal or removed from the United States. Okay. So these are things that are very, very important to obviously understand when it comes to situations like these. To be very, very clear. So all aliens who violate U.S. immigration law. Okay, I already read this. Do ICE officials need to show warrants to the public, not show the warrants that they are executing to people who aren't named or involved? Okay. What happens if someone resists arrest? ICE officials use reasonable and necessary force. Reasonable and necessary force when someone resists arrest. ICE officers and agents prioritize safety. Yeah, fucking right. Including the safety of the people they arrest. Okay? And are highly trained in de-escalation. So this is a lie. So just lying to everybody on their website. Go on. Why do ICE officials wear masks? ICE law enforcement officers wear masks to prevent doxing, which nobody cares about. Nobody cares about. Most police officers and general precincts are going to be, or general agencies are going to have their identities very, very public. They have their names on their fucking badge. They can present ID if prompted. And you can get their identification by calling police departments. So for them to have special privileges, if they're going to be acting as enforcers of what seems to be, I believe, civil law, immigration, right? I believe immigration is a civil law. Let me make sure. Primarily considered a civil matter, not criminal. Okay. Meaning violations like unlawful presence or civil offenses leading to deportation. So they're civil offenses, which can and has placed them and their families at risk. Then don't become an ICE agent then. All ICE law enforcement, don't become an ICE agent. You're not that important, little bro. All ICE law enforcement officers carry badges and credentials and will identify themselves when required for public safety or legal necessity. Are ICE officials really police? ICE officials are federal law enforcement officers. All ICE official enforcement officers go through extensive academy training and do their job as safely and as effectively as possible. Not true. Is ICE snatching or kidnapping people off the streets? ICE doesn't kidnap people. Everyone in ICE custody is accounted for, okay? And you can search the online detainee locator system or contact a local field office to find someone you're looking for. All right. And until you do, and they can't find who you're looking for, by the way. Everyone ICE arrests receives due process. Doesn't seem to be true. ICE law enforcement are bound by privacy laws. They protect our communities, detainees, and themselves. Is asylum illegal status? All right, don't care about that. I just need like more practical information on whether these people have the I want to say authority to properly detain or have the authority to detain somebody. Are you aware that a postal inspector can detain someone in a mugging? Is I would yes, no, I would assume that that's probably due to like I said yes by the way, as in like I would assume that the reason why they're able to do that is because of like what's the word for it? Good Samaritan laws, right? I would assume that it's because of Good Samaritan laws and because postal inspectors to an extent have a level of like legal jurisdiction, unless you're completely bullshitting me. But no, I'm not aware. No, I'm not aware of that at all. I'm just taking a gander at what couldn't what's it called? At what could give somebody the privilege to do that. But don't get me wrong, QQ. I'm here to actively research my own claim and cross analyze my claim. Right? I'm not here going full full dive into my claim that ICE officers aren't allowed to make detentions. Right? I am actively correcting myself. Don't be a bitch. Either find me something valid that I can utilize structurally. Shut the fuck up. Let's see. Can ICE agents gain U.S. citizens, and I want to know what the caveats are for what caveats need to be met. Like what needs to be met before somebody is allowed, whether that be a postal inspector as you claimed, or before that be an ICE agent. What caveats need to be met before they are allowed to detain somebody? Typically, every like base level surface analysis search will say that they can only detain people that within their jurisdiction. Their jurisdiction being immigration and customs laws, right? For the most part, it doesn't seem like they can act as active officers and detain citizens for things unrelated to that. It seems that way, and that's what I'm trying to analyze right now. That's what I'm trying to get at right now. That's what I'm trying to correct. Oh, I'm gonna go through some what I want is like definite sources, like definitive sources coming from like the from like actual published law, like actual government law, maybe a congressional article. All right, let's take a look at this. National Immigrant Justice Center, immigrantjustice.org. All individuals in the United States have rights regardless of immigration status. All right. Create a safety plan. Identify your emergency contact. Don't care. Defend your rights. All persons in the United States have constitutional protections, including the right to remain silent. Okay. Stay calm and don't run. Argue, resist, or fight the officer, which is a given. I'm not going to deny, and I even said this yesterday night. For those of you who were here, I think that if I were to apply blame in a situation like this, completely arbitrarily, pulling numbers out of my ass, I would apply maybe like 10% blame to the lady involved in the altercation for not immediately complying, which would have been a natural de-escalation. Sure, it would be really gross that this person is essentially being intruded upon because ICE agents should not be I want to say impeding on like a state sovereignty, blah 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 blah. However, the safest thing to do in a situation like this is always to comply. She just has poor de-escalation skills, but it's not. But again, it's not her responsibility to de-escalate in a situation like that where ICE agents are rapidly trying to confront her, rapidly trying to get into her vehicle, which regular police officers are trying not to do, based on multiple sources. Well, and I want to say yesterday that conclusion was also backed by a prior federal agent, so I'm inclined to believe that that's a true assertion. Ask if the officers from the police department or immigration. Immigration officers can identify themselves as police. They are not police. Okay. If you're a U.S. citizen or have lawful immigration status, show your passport, legal permanent resident card. Okay. But I would assume that these people are just talking about if ICE agents are, or this article is written, if ICE agents are trying to like deport you or detain you unfairly, right? Not if you are necessarily being obstructive of their like work, right? Which is important because you can consider what she did to be obstruction, depending on you can consider what she did to be obstruction. Absolutely. Okay. If an officer, don't care. If you are outdoors and think you see immigration officers nearby, move to a safe indoor space. If you're a U.S. citizen and feel safe to do so, record the activity with your phone and write down any relevant information about what you witness. Always being careful to not interfere or otherwise obstruct the operation. Do not post unverified information on social media. Interfere with the investigation or otherwise put yourself in harm's way. Cool. So it seems like, okay, I just want more specific, more specific. You're not finding sources? Okay. Yeah, which is exactly why I'm researching this right now actively. Examples because it seems that every single angle that you come at, every single thing that you're like research, and I wish that I could just find the fucking statute where this comes from. I wish I could just find like the congressional reports or whatever. Like, what would the document be? It would be a statute, right? It would be a legal statute. I wish that I could find the statute itself so that I can analyze it. Can you grok it? I'm going through multiple pathways right now to like get this information. So this is grok. QQ sent me this. Examples from recent enforcement as of early of 2026. Okay. As of early 2026. Official DHS statements and arrests show ICE has detained individuals, including non-citizens, for actions like physically blocking agents, refusing verbal commands during an arrest, getting between officers and a subject, or assaulting / interfering during operations. Yeah, but what counts as interference? Again, the reason why I want statutes is because I want to know what specifically, like what language is used to identify interference. Language, especially legal language, as far as I've been told and as far as I know, is incredibly important to these cases, right? Language, following the language is extremely important, right? Because as we saw, like here, the language specifically states, hold on. The language here specifically states, aliens. Briefly detain aliens. A statute wouldn't give enough view info. You need to read cases. Yeah. But I want statute so that I can then try to find cases on it. I like that's why I'm like, researching into this because I don't know if this is technically correct, but mostly wrong, or if it's technically correct and only partially wrong, or if it's technically what's it called, or if it's just outright incorrect. Because as far as I'm aware, ICE agents cannot just detain citizens for for the same reasons that a police officer can. And again, that is a vibes-based analysis based on what resources are telling me. However, if they are obstructing, they can detain. And in this case, you could argue that the lady was obstructing. However, a line that I care about is not from a legal perspective because it's obstruction nonetheless. Not from a legal perspective. I have to make it really, really clear because it's obstruction nonetheless. I also want to find out who was the instigator, right? Because there is such a thing as officers orchestrating or creating a situation where someone would reasonably or maybe even lash out unreasonably and use that as an excuse to use lethal force. I believe that there is precedent for that. QQ, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I also want to argue this from a I want to say moral perspective as well. I guess did these police officers harass this individual, leading into this individual stopping their car and escalating, or I want to say arguing back? Did this person feel entitled and just stop their car to try to give them a piece of their mind, thus leading into this altercation? In which case, it does change the situation drastically. However, it does not change the fact of the matter that this is still a murder. This is still a murder, regardless of what anyone says. I believe it is definitively still a murder, and I have to be very clear on the emphasis. I believe it is still a murder. But anyways, he didn't have any reason to comply, and he didn't have any authority to give you citizen orders. Typically, that is the case unless they are obstructing again. Unless they are obstructing, I want to say that this is typically the case unless they are interfering or obstructing. Which again, you could argue. You could argue. And if I wanted to pursue this argument, I would have a very hard time proving my argument. To be very, very clear, right? Knowing these factors, he intervened in the situation to escalate, resulting in someone's very preventable death while he walks off. So as we're addressing the rest of this, I do hold on. QQ sent me a statute. 18 USC statute 111. Forcibly assaulting, resisting, opposing, impeding, intimidating, or interfering with a federal officer engaged in official duties is a misdemeanor or a felony depending on severity. If force is used. Read A5. Okay, cool. Thank you. Take a look. I mean, it is a murder considering he killed her with intent. Yes. Yes. However, some people would disagree. Some people would say that he's lawfully allowed to do so because of whatever fucking reason. No? U.S. Code 1357, powers of immigration officers and employees. 5A, you said. A5. Yeah, whatever. A5. All right. Right here. Make arrests for any offense against the United States if the offense is committed in the officer's or employee's presence, or for any felony cognizable under the laws. Okay. For any felony cognizable under the laws of the United States, if the officer or employee has reasonable grounds to believe that the person could be arrested or is committing such a felony. If the officer or employee is performing duties relating to an enforcement of the immigration laws at the time of the arrest, and there's likelihood the person escaping for a warrant can be obtained for his arrest. House of immigration officers and employees. Okay. This is going to be relevant to read. Any officer or employee of the United States under regulation and prescribed with the Attorney General shall have the power of that warrant to interrogate any alien or person believed to be an alien as to his right, which, by the way, believed is very, very, I want to say, vague. As a matter of fact, there are, and this might be a loose recollection of what I read, there are cases where these people are allowed to racially profile you, to identify you, or to suspect you of being an alien, which is just straight up racism, to be very clear, as to his right to be or remain in the United States. Is to arrest any alien who is in his presence or view his, okay, within a reasonable distance from any external boundary of the United States, to board and search for aliens, any vessel within the territorial water of the United States, any railway car. Again, it's very, very clear with the language here. They have the power to arrest anyone who commits a federal crime in their presence, okay? To make arrests for felonies which have been committed and which are cognizable under any law of the United States regulating the admission, okay, exclusion, expulsion, or removal of aliens. States regulating the admission, exclusion. Okay, what does this language mean specifically? It says to make arrests for felonies which have been committed and which are cognizable under any law of the United States, regulating the admission, exclusion. Okay, does this mean that it specifically entails or specifically has to relate to, again, immigration or customs matters, or does it mean any law whatsoever? Does it mean any law whatsoever? Why are you reading this? Because I want to have like the fuller context. I told you 5A. No. But now explain. Yes, I know, but I want to read the rest of it. I want to be aware of all of it. So what does this language particularly mean? You are a former. I want to say I don't think you are a former lawyer, but you used to work in law. What does this mean? Does this mean that any law whatsoever, or does regulating in this case specifically mean? I want to say specifically mean with immigration laws. If he has reason to believe that the person is so arrested is guilty of such felony, and if there is a likelihood of the person escaping before a warrant can be obtained for his arrest, the person arrested shall be taken without necessary delay before the nearest available officer. Power to commit persons charged with offenses against the laws of the United States. Okay, so they can make arrests, but they still have to. From what I'm reading here, they can make arrests, but the power ultimately is within the jurisdiction of the agency of that region, right? So it would be they would still have to delegate and give this over to, or give power over to local police enforcement or local law enforcement in this case. Is what I'm gathering here. Feel free to correct me, QQ. Feel free to correct me, QQ. Feel free to correct me, QQ. 5. To make arrest for any offense against the United States if the offense committed in the officer's or employee's presence. For any felony cognizable under the laws of the United States if the officer or employee has reasonable grounds to believe that the person to be arrested has committed or is committing such a felony. The officer or employee is performing duties relating to the enforcement of the immigration law at the time of the arrest, and if there is a likelihood the person is escaping to be aware. Okay. Again, the language is very, very clear. The language is very, very clear if it's in relation to immigration laws. Read that on 5A sentence. I'm just saying you don't need both. Don't need to read. Okay. Regardless, this is one whole statement. This is one whole thought. This is one whole statement. This is one whole thought. Or maybe it isn't, and I'm just retarded. For any federal offense, if the officer or employee is performing duties relating to the enforcement of the immigration laws at the time of the arrest, and if there is likelihood of the person escaping before a warrant can be obtained for his arrest. If, right? But there's also if. If. These are the caveats for 4. These are the caveats for 4, right? These are the caveats for 4. 5, A, and B is the caveats for 4. 4 is continued if the officer. Enforcement. They are in Minnesota to enforce immigration. Okay. However, okay, but in this, okay, so would you say that? So would you say that because they are there to enforce immigration, then they have a natural extension by simply by simply being there of an extension to arrest anybody that might obstruct them in any way possible? You literally can't read. No, I'm asking for clarification. I'm asking you to argue against me in a way that I can that I can further understand. Right? Because I know like legal language is incredibly important to interpret. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, cool. Then I understand. So because ICE is there to under any. Okay, I've told you what five times what it means. No, you haven't. Give me a structured arguing. I'm not arguing what it plainly means. Okay. So I would assume that yes, you mean that because ICE is there under under federal law to assist, right, with alien detention or alien I want to say expulsion. Because they are present there, they are actively engaging in an operation in which any of these people were to harass, obstruct, intimidate, coerce, or whatever other word you want to use here, they would be, I want to say, lawfully allowed to make detentions, arrests, or what's it called, or any other any other thing, right? Right? Is that? Am I gathering that correct? Because they are there under federal orders or under executive order to uphold the law. Okay. So under that technicality, right? I didn't recognize that further extension. Then this would be incorrect. I will concede on this. This would be an L. All right. I will concede on this. This would be an L. This would be an L. All right. Anyways, further on. What else do we have here? Okay. So I guess there's no point in further arguing this. I guess we can move on to some some actual content. We can move into some actual content. All right. So correcting the record, this would be an L. Still doesn't change the fact that that the police officers or not police officers, the ICE agents in this case are poorly trained. Obviously engaged in a way that escalated to the point where somebody's life could be lost. It doesn't change how bad it is, and I am still willing to go down the moral argument of who instigated first, who created the situation. Had ICE agents not been present there, a life would not have been lost that day. Had Trump not lowered the standards for what is required to get into these agencies and then utilized executive orders to basically impede on state sovereignty, a life would not have been lost that day. Is that a practical argument to pursue, QQ? Is that a practical argument to engage in, or would that be entirely like opinions based, schizo babble? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know now. Is it fair? Is it fair to argue that? That's something that I would like to explore. But anyways, I do have the new clip that made me make this tweet in the first place. Made me make this tweet. I don't know. I zoned out with what you just said. Then go back and listen to it again because I forgot what I said as well. All right. So let's see. Footage. This footage was released this morning, right? And people have linked it up, like or synced it up.
That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking.
So this is the original footage, I believe, and this is the new footage that came out this morning.
You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car.
I would say this is instigatory language.
Get out of the car.
Oh!
Fucking
All right, so here in this footage, you can see.
That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking.
This guy is approaching the vehicle.
Come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car.
A person up. Okay, over here. There's like I believe on the other side there's 3 ICE agents or maybe 2 ICE agents. There's one here and maybe one over here. Let's yeah, one right here, one right here.
Get out of the.
So these people, as far as like as this person is aware right here, these 2 agents, as far as this agent is aware, who's recording, already have this under control for the most part, right? It does not take more. I want to say more than one agent to like confront this individual and give them a lawful order or lawful command. So this moron, right, getting fucking antsy, yeah, getting handsy, as we have seen in the past. Keep in mind this individual has a pattern of like this individual right here shooting this footage, as far as we're aware, has a pattern of approaching people in their vehicles prior to an altercation that he was involved in 2025, where he smashed a person's window and tased them in their car. Is making the same mistake again. He is making the same mistake again. He's getting close to the vehicle. As the vehicle is on, as this person is attempting to get into the vehicle, she is backing up, not paying attention to this guy right here, by the way. Completely not paying attention right here. Looks around as she's counter steering, by the way, to make a full turn in this direction or to get away. You can see the wheels turn right here towards that direction. This guy could have stepped away. This guy in this time right here could have stepped back or stepped away to avoid a collision. He didn't. He puts himself in this situation. Immediately draws his gun. Immediately draws his gun. Not as soon as he makes contact with the car. By the way, not prior. As soon as he makes contact, not prior, where he should have tried to neutralize the threat if that were the case. So this guy's already has a delayed reaction. He could have just moved and kills her presumably in these 3 shots. Want to break down from a cop? Yes. Please send it to me. Absolutely. There's no reason why this guy should have shot. There's no reason why this person should have died. There is no reason at all why this person should have died. This fucking retard did everything wrong. First of all, most trained agents under like any I want to say any law enforcement officer or any law enforcement agent is again trained not to shoot at moving vehicles. We have an entire list. We have an entire list of fucking policies. We have an entire list of policies here in multiple different states. Multiple different states about prohibitions or restrictions on shooting at a motor vehicle from about 20 minutes ago. There's a bunch of policies specifically against this. All right, thank you. Right? There is nothing that says that there's nothing that says that you should shoot at a moving vehicle. Degree of restrictiveness high. Degree of restrictiveness high. The degree of restrictiveness medium, high, low, high, low. There's more medium to high restrictiveness than there are low. All right, and this is just a source. This is just a list compiled from 2005. I would be inclined to believe that there are significantly more restrictions now than there were back in like 2005. Right? And I bet there's going to be a heavy crackdown after this as well. So there's no reason why this person should have shot this person at all. Yeah, he obviously had like a spur of the moment reaction because he's fucking bitch made. And was in a similar situation, presumably his own fault, considering he smashed a person's window and tased them, right? Which is already reckless to fucking do. You're tasing a person who's operating a motor vehicle. What the fuck do you think is gonna happen? Gets dragged 100 fucking feet like the retard he is, right? He obviously didn't get hit too hard if he's still standing and not touching himself for fucking injuries. So I highly doubt he's injured. I highly doubt he's injured. Look. In this moment, as the car is pulling away, this guy has enough. And by the way, that means this guy had enough time as well, given the distance and given the angle of the car. Within this moment right here, this guy has the fucking the fucking reaction time to actually step away from the vehicle to avoid getting dragged. See? Somehow he has the capacity to start moving away as the vehicle starts moving. He doesn't. He stands there. Why? And he waits until the moment where he makes contact with the car as he's leaning into the car from other angles, to be very clear. As he's leaning into the car, as you can see, and this foot, right here, you can even see he starts leaning into the car. If you look behind his head, he starts leaning into the car as it's moving forward. And as he makes contact, he draws his gun and shoots. This is just murder. This is just murder.
Fucking bitch.
Fucking bitch.
That's fine.
It's just murder, no matter which way you spin it. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This cop has a different take. To be fair, that's fine. We'll analyze it. We'll be looking at this and toying with opinions. I'm not opposed to toying with opinions. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. All right, so 30 minutes. This will be good content for the meantime.
Holy crap, the shooting of a young lady in Minnesota by an ICE agent has really took the United States news media by storm. I can't remember a police-involved shooting that was this large since George Floyd. Ooh, Minnesota catching no breaks. And I say it's on the level of George Floyd because everybody's talking about it. Your mom, your neighbor, your local news, your mayor, your senator, late night talk show host, the vice president and president of the United States. But what's the reality of it all? No rage bait, no politics, just the video and legal precedents.
Yeah, this guy's already sweet.
And none of the BS. Well, that's what I'm here to give you today. So pull up a...
Wait, angry cops? I think I know that. Wait. Who's the... I don't think it's this guy. Wait, no. Wait, is it this guy? I recognize that profile picture, but I could be completely wrong. Who's the guy who cheated on his wife? Who's like the gun guy who cheated on his wife? Fuck, I forgot. Fuck, I don't think it's this guy. Somebody's gonna know. Who's the guy who cheated on his wife? But this guy is very reminiscent of that.
Chair, let's break down the incident from the video, the comments, and the news that we've received so far. And if you're wondering, well, what could I possibly add to this scenario? I was able to get the dispatch call logs from a couple of people that work in the city of Minnesota, which can add a little bit of context to the overall incident. Now, we have a lot to break down, and I'll even get into the what-ifs later on at the end of the video of, well, what if that happened? And what if this means something? Does that mean that they can or can't do a thing? And we'll get there. But first, a word from this video's sponsor, Aura! Are you tired of scammers getting your phone number and blowing up your inbox with a bunch of spam? I know I am. Well, you gotta blame the data brokers that are out there. They're the ones that are buying and selling your data from stupid, disgusting companies that ask you to put your personal information in for everything and anything that you buy, and then selling it to scammers, hackers, governments, and they do it without your consent.
All right, I'm skipping. I can't. I was gonna give him the what's it called ad and the ad watch, but I can't. It's unbearable. Anyways, where the fuck is this GildedPoo guy? All right, I thought this guy wasn't a fucking pussy. He was active on Twitter when I told him to debate me. He was replying to me, and then he went radio silent as soon as I challenged him to a debate. Where is this guy? I don't got all night, bro. Hold on. Where is this Lio Skinwalker? Where is this fat fucking retard? All right? Where is he? At GildedPoo. Link to my stream. With a quote, with a caption, waiting. 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 You should be praying Gilded doesn't come on. No, I think that why would I care? Why okay. No, I want him to debate me. I want this debate. I want this debate. Get to work. Get to work. Waiting. I already gave the concession. I already gave the concession earlier about law enforcement. About like their legal right to detain people. I think it's unfair because ICE has been given too much power. That's something that can be argued, right? And I believe that it is fair to argue that or debate the amount of power that ICE has been given. I think it is also fair to argue the amount of I want to say the amount of executive force that has been used. Essentially, Trump, competing on state sovereignty. QQ, are you still here? Can you tell me if I can word that better? I believe in state independence and the government not overstepping on like the states, on the states' liberties, right? Would it be fair to condense that by saying that Trump is impeding on state sovereignty, or is that too loaded of a claim? Okay, Kayvon, would that be too loaded of a claim if you're here? K Malk. Is that too loaded of a claim, or is there a better way to like state that? I think that most people would agree that Trump utilizing executive orders to send ICE to uphold the law in states that, again, historically have been given a level of power outside of like the federal government, so they can operate on their own and apply the law on their own independently of the government. I think it is gross, or I think it is unfair, or I think that it is like I want to say, as a generalization, tyrannical for the government to be overexerting that power. Transgressing Article 1 limits on federal power. Let me search that up. Article 1. Can you search that up and send me a link? Trump does do that, but I don't know if this specific case would be that. I'm utilizing this as a generalization for ICE involvement in states overall, right? In general, right? I think that ICE being heavily present in states is like, I want to say like impeding on state sovereignty. I just want to know if there's a better way to phrase that. Because I think I'm using state sovereignty a little bit too loosely, right? State sovereignty is the principle that a state has supreme authority to govern itself and its people within its territory, okay? Free from external interference, okay? Meaning it can be, okay, I guess I'm using it pretty practically. That is a clean version of your phrase. Okay, let me search that up. Article, okay, transgressing. Hopefully that comes up with something relevant. Article 1, it's on federal government. Generally means Congress exceeding its enumerated powers, acting beyond the specific authorities granted in the Constitution. Yeah, like regulating commerce, coining money, raising armies, and encroaching on powers reserved for state of the people. Yes, thank you. That's perfect. That is perfect, actually. Article 1, thank you. That works. Thank you. Let's continue.
Raiding in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they're conducting an investigation. During that investigation, one of the ICE agents' unmarked vehicles are stuck in the snow. While stuck in the snow, the ICE agents radio to others that they need assistance. Okay. Now, during the time that the ICE agents are stuck in the snow, that other agents begin to arrive so they can assist them in getting unstuck, a group of anti-ICE protesters, at this moment known as ICE Watch, block the road and obstruct traffic. The protest vehicles obstruct the roadways where the ICE agents' vehicles are located during this investigation.
All right, so it's not an ICE blockade. Extremely important, by the way. That actually detracts from my arguments. Just to give you a little bit of a W, K-Malk. It wasn't an ICE blockade. Protesters, I want to say, irritated the issue, it appears, which is extremely relevant. It is extremely relevant to take into consideration. Obviously, it doesn't detract from the fact that this was a murder, but of course, it could have been preventable.
Investigation, and that also includes civilian vehicles that aren't associated with the investigation. ICE agents then approach the vehicle that is obstructing traffic. That vehicle attempts to drive off while ICE agents are making contact with it, and in the process, potentially strikes an ICE agent, resulting in that agent discharging his firearm and striking the driver of that vehicle. The driver received medical aid on scene, but was pronounced dead from their injuries. Now that's as vanilla as I could make it. But like everything in life, it's not that simple, is it? Now, once the internet got a hold of some of the video by some of the protesters and other witnesses that were around the incident, of course, the internet took it and ran with it. And just like that, the internet has been filled with use of force lawyers. Those determining what is or what isn't legal, what is or what isn't justified, and trying to place intent on the driver or the ICE agent that fired his duty weapon. And that also includes intentionally leaving out other videos.
Paul Spinal, he's saying you're wrong. Spinal's a fucking retard, okay? Spinal's a retard. I don't have to fucking talk to that retard for anything. You know what? Spinal's kind of like... You know what? Spinal's kind of like a soft retard, so I feel bad for calling him a retard and being mean to him. You know what? He's like too naive to consider like, you know, he's like a defenseless puppy, you know what I mean? He's like a gross puppy that humps everybody's legs and does like weird gay shit. But he's like a poor defenseless puppy. You know what I'm saying? Anyways.
Videos or deleting comments that could or do conflict with their statements or their point of view of the overall incident. So let's start at the beginning, go through all the videos, some of the comments, concerns, and the conclusions that people draw from on the internet, and we'll compare them to case law to determine whether or not this was or wasn't a lawful shoot. I find this to be one of the more interesting points of this.
Fuck! Okay, I'll call Spinal.
Police.
I'll call Spinal. I'll call Spinal just to see what the fuck he wants to talk about. Tell him to call me. He has me. He has me on his list. Tell him to call me. I'm not gonna fucking find his username to call him.
Involved shooting. Let's say in a perfect world where the ICE officer is without blame and we already understand that he is authorized to use deadly force. When does that authorization of deadly force stop? When is the vehicle no longer a threat? The first shot, let's argue and say that he's 100% in the right and that she is aiming for him, and he lets off that first round. There are photos of the bullet hole going through the front of the windshield. But what about the next two? The next two are when he's slightly to the side of the vehicle.
Spine wants to call you, I know! Tell him to ring me. I'm not gonna go out of my way to ring this guy.
Vehicle and shooting through the driver's window. If we can
Spinal disagrees with me on what? On what? On what?
Argue that the first shot is a legitimate good shoot because he was in front of the vehicle and feared for
Spinal doesn't have my Discord, then I don't care.
His life. Could we argue that because he's to the side of the vehicle, that those second
Why is this
and
Spinal
third
guy so fucking useless? Gain some fucking cognitive functions, find my username, and call me! Alright, watch this. It's this fucking easy. It's this fucking easy, alright? It's this fucking easy. Never mind, it's not that fucking easy. It's not that fucking easy. Never mind. I don't have any shared servers with him, so I don't know what his username is. Dude, these people are so fucking... Why are... You people are so fucking annoying. You people are so fucking annoying. Alright, there. There. I added him. He has to call me. I added him. Hello? Hello? I'm just here waiting now. Waiting. Hold on, let me check and see that you're getting picked up on OBS. Go ahead. No, these people fucking lie. These people, they told me that you wanted to debate me. Alright, well everybody who fucking said that is a loser fucking pedophile, alright? Never let them tell you the same. You guys are fucking retards! He literally just fucking stuttered and said, I don't know what we're supposed to debate about. What is there? Okay, you'd stop trying to like artificially manufacture a debate where nothing will happen. We don't even know what to debate on.
Shots?
You stupid fucking retards. You stupid fucking retards.
Are an overstep when it comes to...
We want you to fucking debate. We want you to have a debate. What on? What on? Come up with something at the very fucking least. You can't just expect people to fucking argue without having like any fucking contention. You stupid fucking idiots.
Use of lethal force? What the people investigating this shoot are going to have to do is determine that one reaction resulted in that simultaneous firing of 3 rounds, bang, bang, bang. Or will they say that although the first round was justified, in that split second between the first and second round, there was no longer a threat to his personal safety.
Content on a plat. Okay, watch this. Hold on, watch this. Check this out. Check this amazing content. Check this amazing content out real quick. I'm calling Spinal right now. Tell Spinal that I'm calling him. I'm calling Spinal right now. Tell him to pick up the phone. Tell him to pick up the phone. Tell this guy to pick up the phone. I'm waiting for... I'm gonna call him again. I'm gonna fucking ring him again. He's not answering! GildedPoo debate on what? On the ice stuff. On the ice shooting. Dude, he hung up! He doesn't want to fucking talk! Alright, now I'm just gonna harass him. Wait, just wait. Hello?
Hello?
Spinal, what do you think about the ice shooting?
I think she walked into it.
You think she walked into it?
I mean, yeah, she kind of did it to herself, yeah.
To what degree?
I guess with like, because by the time she like drove away, she already had one of the officers like grabbing the door handle, and the other guy was like kind of in front of her.
You do realize that there's no, you do realize there's no like academy training that justifies the type of behavior in the first place, right? They're typically not supposed to do that. Like they're typically not supposed to do that under any circumstance. Because
the vehicle thing or what?
Yeah. They're not supposed to approach the vehicle abruptly. They're not supposed to try to get them out of the vehicle by force, unless they're like I want to say escalating the situation, right? They're like heavily like even in most like police officer body cam footage, if you want to like deflect to that, usually there's like a high amount of escalation before somebody tries like to forcibly take somebody out of a vehicle. There's usually like limitations on that before an officer tries like breaking into your door, right?
I mean,
you think she got?
Yeah.
yeah. So let's compare this to like typical police response. Did she really get herself into a situation if they immediately started escalating? If they were immediately trying to be aggressive? If they were the aggressors?
I would say she got herself in, at least from what I've seen. It seems like she was antagonizing whoever the guy was in front, is what it seems like.
Who?
I'm not too sure if more comes out.
Actually, that's incorrect. That's incorrect. So there's multiple ICE agents, to be very, very clear. The person who shot was also taking like video where he was arguing with a person's wife, presumably. The person who the lady was arguing with out of her window was a different ICE agent who was trying to get her out of her vehicle.
Different ICE agent who was trying to get her out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
That was... So the guy who was recording her was a different ICE agent,
yes.
Not the same...
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, they're different. They were different people. What if I told you that the ICE agent who was recording and shot her in the first, in the first place, didn't even need to like step in, considering there were already two ICE agents, approaching the woman. One of them already having like his hand on her door handle.
I mean, that would probably be true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because 3 of them. I mean, that's my thing. I guess my take on it is not that they are like completely in the clear. I just feel like it escalated too fast due to both sides. I guess would be. I don't know how to word it, but that's sort of where I lie. I feel like it's not. I just don't like when people are acting like she did like nothing wrong. I feel like in the moment she probably did something stupid.
I don't disagree.
Which was like the driving thing. You don't think so?
I don't know.
I said driving away would be stupid. Or?
No, I don't disagree. Actually, I don't disagree. I said this last night. I said that if I were to, I said that if I were to apply blame, I would probably say that she has like 10% responsibility in the matter for not complying, even if it is against her best interest and maybe even be like an infringement on her rights. Even if these people are like I want to say transgressing on state sovereignty, she probably should have complied anyways to like minimize the harm in a situation like this.
I mean, yeah, no. So we basically see. I guess 10% sure, but that's like my take. Is like I don't necessarily think they had like any right to do all of this, but I think at that point, once they were like grabbing the door handle and all that, her best move to
her best choice would have been to comply. Yeah.
Yeah, just like
I agree.
Just get out the car at that point, because the driving away is just gonna escalate it even further to something more at that point.
Yeah, I agree. But do you think that the police officer was justified in shooting her?
No,
George,
I don't think he was like justified.
You as a black man, do you think he was justified in George Floyding her?
No. I don't think he should have ever shot, especially when she was like still basically right next to him. It's not like she like got away and he started like shooting. I don't think he had any real reason to shoot.
Okay.
But
then we don't. I don't think we practically disagree.
Okay. Well, that was
okay.
It was nice then, I guess.
All right. Bye, Spinal. Take it easy.
Bye.
All right.
As the vehicle was going to the right of him, making the second and third shots no longer justifiable lethal force. Honest opinion, because it happened so closely, I doubt that the second and third shots will be used as a secondary incident trying to show an excessive use of force. Either it all is or none of it is. Sure, we could slow it down to make it seem like an eternity, but the time between the first and third shots are only a matter of 1 to 2 seconds. And now we get to the aftermath.
Why are we pretending like people don't think quicker than that, than the amount of time that passed?
Of the shooting.
Why do we think that like we don't have like 1,000 thoughts processed in our brains before that amount of time passes?
The conclusion. The aid that's given medically to Miss Good, and also the 911 dispatch calls, which I've received and I'll share with you. In some of the videos from
Drag me in? I wasn't even in server. Hold on. What's up? Hello? Don't say the N-word.
Hello? I'm not gonna say the N-word.
Okay.
So man, like, have you ever just tried like shutting the fuck up? Like,
is that all you want to say? Is that all you wanted to say?
No, like you're being like really annoying right now, and it's like you gotta chill on people, Yama. It's like
chill on me, bro. Chill on me, bro.
Fuck you mean chill on you, man? You got into that, like, first of all, no one's scared of you. Like that whole Gilded thing, no one. Like absolutely nobody's scared of you. And then like the whole spinal call was like super gay. And you acted like a fag the whole time.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, problem? Okay, problem?
The aftermath, it shows officers walking
complete
away.
Nothing. Everything is nothing today. There's nothing said. Nothing completely said. Okay, completely fucking nothing. Fuck!
The officer that shot Miss Good. People say that that's a red flag. They also state that nobody was giving her medical aid fast enough, and that civilians on the side of the road were stating that they could render aid, or that they were medical physicians themselves and could assist the officers.
Can I go check a pulse?
No! Back up! Now!
And I'll talk to those.
That's kind of fucked up. I don't know why they would be telling them to like not assist in any way. I guess there would be legal liabilities, but still.
Two things directly. First, the officer involved with the shooting not rendering aid and walking away. It's normal practice for an officer who gets involved with an officer-involved shooting to immediately remove himself from the area and allow other officers to render aid. There are already dozens of other officers there, ICE agents, etc., that can assist Miss Good after being shot and the vehicle stopping. Why the officers involved in the shooting walk away from incidents like that is to protect the integrity of an officer-involved shooting investigation. Hypothetically, if I were to shoot somebody and then I was the person rendering aid to that individual and that person died, would you not, or the public not, immediately wonder if I was actually rendering aid to the person that just A, tried to kill me, and
that's true,
B,
that's true,
that I just killed? Even in this scenario.
Okay, that's enough. Call GildedPoo now. He wants to schedule the debate for later.
As is
at that point, I don't even fucking care. He says at a later date. At that point, I don't fucking care. He said he has plans tonight. I don't know what the fuck his plans could be. At that point, the story is fucking dead. Who cares? I don't care.
Much news as it's got.
It was either tonight or bust. By tomorrow, everybody's gonna move the fuck on. This is a 3-day, 4-day story at most.
I think it's reasonable for you and I to agree. Outsiders looking in, including media, would have been upset that the officer who shot Miss Good was rendering aid.
I'll DM him after stream, and if I can find a reasonable time frame, like maybe tomorrow, call him right. I can't. He literally said that he didn't want to. He literally said that he wouldn't tonight and to schedule at a later date. Okay?
And that she passed away. So it is common practice that the officer involved in a shooting that pulls the trigger, is not the individual to render aid to an individual that's been shot. I see that as a non-issue, but let me know if you disagree. Second, the rendering of aid by an individual that's on scene.
Oh my god, who cares? Get to the fucking point! Get to the fucking shooting!
We already have a chaotic scene where individuals have tried to prevent ICE agents from doing their investigation, and it's resulted in an officer-involved shooting. At this time, I think we can understand that the optics of allowing random people into an evidentiary lockdown area because it's an officer-involved shooting is a bad idea. Most officers are already trained in some form of quick combat casualty care, tourniquets, quick clot, Israeli bandages and pressure in order to assist somebody in living, to include CPR. And as we'll see in just a moment, when I break down the radio log, Miss Good is rendered aid immediately by professionals, a step above law enforcement officers, the fire department, and their much better trained staff. I'm not sure if the fire department here has paramedics on it, but I've yet to see a fire department that doesn't have somebody medically qualified as a paramedic assisting them when it comes to incidents where individuals are injured, shot, etc.
Oh my fucking god, where do we get to where do we get to the fucking part that matters? Where do we get to the part that matters?
That can be done in several different ways, which I touched on, and I'll repeat for you again. A law enforcement officer activates the lights in an unmarked car, not uncommon. Okay. Gets out of the vehicle, dressed as a uniformed officer. In fact, Miss Good understands that she's there to intentionally prevent ICE agents from conducting an investigation. So she understands contact with an ICE agent, very possible. That ICE agent then gives verbal command.
Oh my fucking god. Dude, are we back? Are we back? Are we... Hold on. Let me see. Are we back? Are we chill? Are we back? Are we chill? Are we back? Can somebody tell me if we're back? Can someone tell me if we're back? Can someone tell me if we're back? Are we back right now? Are we back right now? Are we back right now? Hello? Hello? Okay, I think we're back. I'm pretty sure we're back. All right, cool. All right, huge. All right. VPN raped me once again. It always does this. I don't know why. I need to fucking buy Molvad. But anyways, I'm gonna do practical research. All right, that's all I'm saying.
Vehicle while attempting to open the door and remove Miss Good from the vehicle. Now, without trying to sound a little too sarcastic, as I am trying to be straightforward with this, could you imagine what may or may not have happened had she complied with the ICE officer with lights on his...
Also, wait, K-Malk, you fucking asshole. And takeaway is, wait. He doesn't stop or explain why she was shot. I have explained why she was shot. I talked about why she was shot, okay?
Vehicle in uniform.
I'm sorry you weren't here last night for the fucking
command
stream.
To get out of your vehicle and then attempting to open and remove her from the vehicle. Now, at this point in the incident, this is where the controversy begins. This is where attorneys, politicians, late night TV shows, and other members of the public...
Dude, what the fuck is this music in the background? Please use any other fucking song.
...really focus on. At this moment of the interaction, Miss Good puts her vehicle in reverse and backs up a short distance, and then puts her vehicle in drive as an ICE officer goes in front of her vehicle, making his way around to the driver's side. And she drives forward where the officer shoots through the vehicle. His bullets strike Miss Good, which continues her acceleration.
I'm gonna be so honest with you, dude. This is so fucking boring. This is so fucking boring.
Into a parked vehicle, and then into a pole where the vehicle stops. And I'll break this down further into 3 smaller incidents: driving, striking, and the shooting. Let's start with driving. Having already been given instructions by a uniformed officer, Miss Good puts the vehicle in reverse as the officer is attempting to open up her door. It is at this moment that the officer who shoots has already pulled out his firearm. Now, people are disputing, well, she was driving backwards at that time and not a threat. Why did he pull out his firearm? Which, to somebody who's experienced some of these moments in his career, finds mind-boggling. Officers can...
Okay, so he's completely against the idea that he pulled out his firearm. Cool.
...draw their weapons if a potential use of force incident is present. Potential. An officer doesn't have to wait for a firearm to be pulled out and then pointed at
him. So he is pro using his firearm immediately. Okay.
Him to then draw their service weapon. An officer, and this is usually in their manual of procedures, can draw his weapon when he feels threatened or that there is a potential for violence, to include deadly force. An example, if I do a traffic stop and I see somebody rooting around in the center console aggressively digging at something, I could infer that they could be reaching for a weapon, and I could draw my firearm out. I could then give verbal instructions to show me your hands, and that person could obviously pull out a firearm and shoot at me, or could have just been digging in their center console aggressively because they're panicking and have no weapon on them. Now, in that incident, I would reholster and then engage that person verbally, but in no way, shape, or form is me pulling out or removing my firearm because there is a potential threat, any violation of a manual of procedures, or an excessive use of force. Now, we've already used the word...
Wait. So what's the takeaway? He could have or could have not. Of course, I know he's not going on morals, but like he's not like. To me, it seems like he's like threading between the line. Okay, is he justifying? Is he justifying the drawing of a weapon or not?
Word intent. From an officer's perspective, after giving verbal warnings to an individual to get out of the vehicle while wearing their uniform and having their overhead lights.
Okay, but he's not considering that the person could have just avoided being in front of the vehicle. He's not considering that the person who shot could have just avoided being in front of the vehicle.
That person decides to move their vehicle, as in shift, to reverse, and move. And this is while an officer is attempting to open the door and attached physically to the vehicle. It is reasonable to assume that that person is now going to try and drive away, possibly into officers in an attempt to flee. They have already shown that they will disregard the verbal orders and the physical act.
I guess drawing the weapon is a non-issue. I'm reading too much into it. He could have just drawn the weapon as a deterrent if this person had no visible weapon, right, besides the vehicle. And not have used it, right? There is like a potential timeline. There could have been a potential, like, alternate timeline where he just never fired and he just drew the weapon.
Of the officer trying to open up the door and drive away. And now we get into a micro point that people are really dialed into. And that is where the front tire is turned to.
Yes, which is very important. It is actually very fucking important. Was she intending to fucking hit this guy or not?
Individuals are stating that because the wheel was turned a certain way, that adds additional intent or shows the thought process of Miss Good as she backs up and drives forward.
Which I feel like it's extremely important to apply that here.
Because her front wheels are straight and pointing towards the ICE officer in front of her vehicle as she accelerates, but the wheels don't get traction, it shows that she was willing to strike the individual officer in front of her vehicle. Others are saying that because she turned the wheel shortly thereafter, that is an attempt in order to avoid the officers, and therefore has no liability and is zero threat to the officer.
Okay, well, anybody who's arguing that is a fucking retard. Obviously, there is liability here.
That's in front of her.
There's obviously liability here, because she should, like, while there are people around her car, she should not have attempted to move the vehicle at all.
Making his way around to the driver's side, which makes me want to rehash how we got here. And this will come up again shortly when I talk about the shooting, the actual shots being fired. Miss Good is there intentionally to obstruct ICE officers in their official duties. She is detained by ICE officers when they activate their lights, step out of the vehicle in uniform, given verbal directions to get out of the car, have that officer then reach for the handle and attempt to open the door physically and remove her, and now she has chose to ignore those verbal commands, put the vehicle in reverse, and drive a short distance, couple feet, as an officer in front of her vehicle, making his way to the driver's side, pulls out his firearm. Having all of these things happen in the order that I stated, Miss Good then makes the decision.
I feel like this guy's just neglecting a lot of fucking details and a lot of caveats. I just think he's, like, neglecting a lot of information. Actually, this doesn't matter. Actually, this doesn't matter either. So what? The rest of this information doesn't matter. It's she did an action, and because of that action, it's justified for this person to, like, use lethal force. To be a fucking retard. It's perfectly fine for these people to be escalatory.
Accelerate.
It's perfectly fine for these people to, like, just do whatever the fuck they want and terrorize whoever they want.
This attorney would have an extremely difficult time trying to
facts
defend
versus narrative. It seems like very cherry-picked facts. What about the entirety of the fucking case?
It's good if she stated that.
Can you let him explain? I don't give a shit about his explanation anymore. It's very, very evident that he's gonna be biased towards like, law enforcement.
He didn't know that she was detained at that moment. Once again, intentional obstruction, lights, officer in uniform, verbal commands, attempt to physically open and remove the driver, backs up as another officer draws his firearm and points it at the vehicle, at her, the driver. Not even driving forward yet, no shots fired, and a jury, or a judge if it's a bench trial, would have an extremely difficult time believing that Miss Good was not detained at that moment. And now we move on.
You're the one saying the narrative. What does that even mean? What does that mean? Do you think that I went on Twitter and I'm just like fucking regurgitating what everybody else wants to fucking paint as like as a fucking defense for anti-ICE, for like or what's it called, for like ICE abolition? No. No. No, people can make their own, people can infer the situation based on the information they see. This guy's neglecting like 50% of the available information. It's, this person was there causing an obstruction. Sure, that's fair. You don't get to drive off when detained. Yeah, you don't get to drive off when detained. But at the same time, if you're going to detain somebody, perhaps don't immediately start escalating. Perhaps don't make people panic, which can turn a situation upside down. This guy's a fucking police officer, is he not? I would assume that when the fucking ICE website says that police officers are trained in de-escalation, I would assume that when the ICE website says that ICE officers are trained in de-escalation, it doesn't mean that ICE officers are allowed to just fucking start surrounding your car, trying to force you out of your vehicle, and then fucking draw a weapon on you and fire immediately. Like what are you talking about? Like, this guy is selectively choosing the information that he wants to talk about.
Struck or not struck. From the different angles and the different times being put together, in my opinion, it looks like the officer...
So first of all, this guy steps out of this vehicle filming, presumably trying to instigate an argument with a wife who's outside of the vehicle. No, not even presumably, that's actually what's happening. He then starts going around the car, which he didn't need to fucking do. There's already 2 officers on the other end. He films with his phone. For what reason? Who fucking knows? I mean, it's fair to assume. It's fair to assume more reasonably that he's just trying to gather evidence, you know, in case of like legal liability, right? But then, what's the intent about gathering evidence for legal liability? Unless he was expecting something to go down.
Is struck, or potentially he puts his hand on the hood, jumps back, and that acceleration...
He leans into the car. He leans into the car. Come on.
Pushes him back.
Also, this video sped up.
Backwards around the corner of the vehicle as he fires at Miss Good. Now, does the striking matter?
You can see in the video that he's moving with the vehicle. The idea ICE is immediately escalating requires that you ignite that the instigating incident of that detainment was her deliberate attempt to hinder ICE, which in your narrative is not an escalation. The idea ICE is immediately escalating requires that you ignite that the instigating incident of that detainment was her deliberate attempt to hinder ICE, which your narrative is not. What do you mean? Can you reword that? Can you reword that? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where in the world you think it's okay for fucking like police officers to just immediately surround your car and tear you out of your vehicle if you're just like a defenseless woman. I don't know where in your fucking, like, I don't know where in the United States it's okay for somebody to shoot at a fucking moving vehicle. The idea ICE is immediately escalating requires that you ignore that the instigating incident of that detainment was her deliberate... No. Pisco argues this really well, actually. Pisco argues this really well. Right? You have to have, like, as he says it, and I'm not gonna try to like utilize this 100% like for my argument. This requires objective assessment of every single moment that occurs, right? Of every single moment that occurs. So, this guy, objectively, when he was moving around this vehicle, did he need to do that? Did he need to do that? Probably not. Did he need to pull out his weapon? Probably not. Did he need to fire at her 3 times? Probably not. There might be an instance where he was in immediate immediate fear of his life, and he felt threatened. However, as those moments pass, he might have not had an immediate threat of his life for lethal force to be required. It's possible that within one moment, firing once was justified. What about after? As he continued to pursue the vehicle and continued to shoot at her. I would like to see Pisco talk to angry cops. I'm sorry, but I don't know what to tell you. Just because somebody's a fucking cop, or just because this guy is like a former I want to say agent, doesn't mean that he's like an authority on everything legal. And again, that does go to Pisco. Just because he was like a former law practitioner or a former lawyer or a practicing lawyer. I'm not sure what his occupation is. Very clearly, it doesn't make him an authority either. However, He is just neglecting a lot of knowledge. This is not narrative versus fucking narrative. It's just practicality.
Yes, it does, but it's not as important as people think. Whether he's struck or not struck, it is the officer's interpretation of whether he is being assaulted with a deadly weapon. If he believes that she is driving at him and that vehicle will strike him, he is allowed to use deadly force. Let me break that down because I know you're getting upset. What do you mean if he believes it? From a victim's standpoint, if I go up to an old person with a squirt gun, but it doesn't have any orange tip and it looks like a firearm, and I point it at them and I say, hey, give me your money. And then they pull out their .44 Magnum and proceed to put every bullet through my sternum, I am at fault. Why?
True. That's true.
Because the victim, the individual, reasonably believed that I had pulled out a firearm with the intent to rob them, which is a...
Okay, then that goes down the argument of like objective belief. Then there goes that argument of objective belief, which would probably have to be proven in an investigation.
Deadly force author.
Even though I mean, I'm not an expert on this, so of course it's gonna sound stupid. You would have to like, you know, you can't read his mind. You don't know what he was thinking in the moment, right? You don't know what his intents or his beliefs are. So there's always
situation. That. If I pull out a knife and start screaming at you, you feel that I may stab you with that knife. My intent may be to put it away. It could be a rubber knife, but you as the victim feel, and reasonably so.
But then you have to. Bisco argued this with us yesterday. But you would have to like have after those moments like objective belief of immediate threat for your life, of immediate threat for your safety.
That I am threatening you with a knife, and that
it is fair that perhaps in one of these moments, in one of these instances, he felt genuine fear and he maybe was justified in using lethal force. But what about after?
I will stab you.
What if that moment passes? What if that moment is fleeting? What if you took a little bit extra time to assess the situation? Is it like here's the thing. If you're utilizing these arguments, you're immediately justifying that everybody can just have an itchy trigger finger, get afraid, and then just like fucking shoot somebody if they wanted to.
Or I have the potential to stab you. That is,
and I guess that is the thought process that a lot of people are gonna go down from. A lot of people would probably hear that and say, well, yeah, no shit, duh, which is fucking retarded. That is like animalistic behavior.
Also, a deadly force authorized incident. So, an ICE agent crossing over the front of the vehicle.
What's your current state on the topic now? I still think it's murder. I believe it is undeniably murder.
Vehicle. Having seen the vehicle back up while an officer's trying to open the door, post verbal warnings and the lights being on and detainment, reasonably believes that that person, after backing up, could potentially run his partner that's on the vehicle or him over, draws his firearm. The vehicle then lunges forward and accelerates, to which he believes he is about to be struck by a vehicle and fires. And if you don't think that a vehicle is a deadly weapon, I would strongly disagree. Just look.
Yes, the vehicle's a deadly weapon, but he had enough time to assess the immediate danger and threat for his life and could have just decided not to use lethal force.
The amount of times that vehicles have been used in order to intentionally assault.
The question is, did ICE have the right to detain that lady for interfering in their operation? I went with this argument. I went over this argument with QQ already. I conceded that technically, yes, they would have the right to detain her. Technically, yes, they did have the right to detain her. Under the argument that because ICE is there under legal orders to enforce detainment of legal aliens. If somebody were to obstruct them in any way, whether that be harassing them, whether that be again forming protests or blockades, then technically, if they are interfering with their legal operations, yes, they would be allowed to detain her. So in this case, I think it would be entirely fair, and in fact, it would have also been de-escalatory and would have saved her life to just comply, get out of the vehicle, and allow them to apprehend her. Even if that would be incredibly intrusive, even if that would be like a complete violation of her rights, because I shouldn't be in the state to begin with, she should have complied. I already went with this. I already made this argument.
Large groups of people during terrorist attacks, or even domestics where somebody gets upset at another person, decides to run them over with a car. A car is a 2-ton bullet that you can turn. And it just so happens that the officer who fired those rounds into
car is a 2-ton bullet that you can turn and cause harm with. if you're either stuck underneath a vehicle or if it's moving at a certain speed. Or if it's moving at a certain speed. And it also depends on how it hits you.
This goods car was drugged by a vehicle.
Like again, like what? This guy's just fucking justified for everything because of irrational fear. What do you mean we should not have ICE in the state? Wait, first of all, what do you mean? Like, are you pro like ICE just going into your state? And do you think that it's just okay for ICE to just go into your state and start enforcing the law on their own? So forcing your way out of that detainment with vehicle when detained by officers on foot shows a willingness to use deadly force to escape lawful detainment. Your way out of it, okay. So forcing your way out of that detainment with a vehicle when detained by officers on foot shows a willingness to use deadly force to escape lawful detainment. Willingness to use deadly force. That goes back to the argument of I would assume because of the language, that goes back to the argument, did she intend to cause bodily injury or bodily harm to this officer? And also, could this bodily harm have been avoided? And the answer is yes. Because even though she is utilizing her car, and I guess technically a vehicle can be deadly force, that deadly force cannot pose an immediate threat or an immediate cannot pose immediate harm to the officers around them. But there's always that caveat.
300 yards while attempting to effect an arrest.
The same ICE agent appears to have been dragged roughly 300 feet while executing arrest. Okay, yeah, that shows a pattern. It shows a pattern of him getting himself into these situations.
Just 6 months ago. So even if this officer was on the stand, he could state, "I have been drugged by a vehicle."
And he could also have PTSD that would make his decisions more rash in a situation like this, which in my opinion would make him unfit to serve.
Just 6 months ago, because somebody...
I don't care about ICE if you're illegal and living in the US. Did they have a right to... Okay. They have a right to remove you, even if it's morally wrong or whatever. I mean, technically, yes. Technically, they do have a right to remove you. The United States does have a right to enforce their border laws. I agree. However, when you allow the government to essentially create a secondary police force, give them what's it called? Give them what I would argue excessive amounts of power. Just go into any state they want and start ransacking places and start racially profiling people and start I want to say arresting people that they suspect of being immigrants, even though they may not be without a warrant. You're giving these people way too much power in states that are supposed to be majorly independent and supposed to uphold their own laws, and you are allowing them to essentially run amok and cause issues like this, which could have been entirely avoidable had they not been present. I would say that immigrants in a state where the vast majority of them might not be criminals and might not fucking kill somebody is not infinitely, that would be too much of an exaggeration, is probably less harmful than people getting injured or killed in the process of ICE trying to, I want to say, uphold these laws. Minnesota has no right to prevent the operation of ICE. Even though Minnesota doesn't have a right to prevent the operation of ICE, to be very, very clear, it is my opinion that states should have the right to contest these executive orders and challenge them federally. They should do that. They should challenge these executive orders federally. Immigration is not a states' rights issue. Okay, I know, but okay, but still, I know, but that does that mean that the government should just start going into states, completely ignoring anything that the state wants, and just start ransacking their plate, their fucking shit to get rid of people that benefit their local economy, that benefit their local workforce? Is that? I mean, I feel like states should have a say in whether the government should just start getting rid of people within their residency. States should be allowed to keep illegals, Gamma says. Yes, if that's what they so choose. If that's what they so choose, then yes. If a state decides that that's what they want to do, they should be allowed to do that. Yes, unironically. If the state decides that is what they want to do, and they go about keeping illegals in a functional way where they are documenting these people, despite them being illegal, and giving them forms of and giving them I want to say giving them ways of identifying whether they're paying taxes or not. They should be allowed to do that. They should be allowed to do that. That unironically is like actually that is like that would not even be like that would actually not be like an unfair way of resolving immigration issues. Actually, that's actually not even an unfair way of resolving immigration issues. The state, like if states want to house illegals and give them documentation, give them identity, give them fair pay, give them working rights, give them good conditions, ensuring that they're paying their taxes and ensuring that what's it called, they're accounted for, then yes, I think that states are perfectly fine in keeping illegals. The state cannot pardon a federal crime, I know. But I still think that they should be entirely in the right. I still think that they should be entirely in the right to contest that. If they so choose. I think it is entirely right for them to contest that. Right? Not from the perspective of what is lawfully like viable, but from the perspective of what would be more pragmatic for these, like what would be a more pragmatic solution for these things. Right? I think I fundamentally believe in a division of power across the states to make sure that the federal government does not encroach on people's sovereignty. I think it is important that states are independent enough to decide these things so that the government just doesn't fucking decide to be like, you know what, you're not allowed to do that anymore. You know what, we're gonna fucking take away your federal reserves. You know what, we're gonna fucking cut taxes from you. You know what, we're gonna fucking take away your National Guard, right? I feel like they should have more than enough say in their own matters to avoid these things. Pull me really quick? Okay. The states can bypass federal crimes. Raven, you don't understand what I'm saying. First of all, is immigration even a federal crime? It's a civil issue.
Well, I mean, you can have
federal repercussions, yeah.
Yeah, so real quick, what you're saying makes no sense because there is no way for an immigrant of any kind, legal or illegal, get into a state to be granted sanctuary by that state without first crossing borders
illegally
of the federal country.
Okay.
No, like legal or illegal, right? So like, can't be an immigrant without first crossing the federal border.
Okay.
Right. So, any question of immigration from outside of the country, therefore, immediately in the purview.
Okay.
Of the federal government.
All right.
And the reason what you're saying is kind of retarded is there's actually a law preventing, once people are in the states from stopping movement between the states. Right. So if you were to take your position to its next logical conclusion, Minnesota could just grant amnesty to any illegal immigrant, you know, because this non-existent state, right? And then once that happens, none of the other states would be able to prevent those immigrants from moving to any other state.
I don't see why. Wait, no.
That's the rule.
Because then it would be a matter of jurisdiction. It would be a matter of like,
no,
you don't get the same privileges in other states, and I would say that
state commerce clause
that could actually. I feel like that could actually be relatively solvable. I feel like that could actually be relatively solvable by just cooperating with the federal government.
So, right. So we're right back to I. Like the thing is, state commerce clause.
Okay, so okay. So yes, we're right back to ICE. Let's say that the state does, for whatever reason, like let's say the state is granted sufficient power for them to just give amnesty to an illegal immigrant, whether they cross the border illegally or illegally. This federal like this immigrant is paying taxes, is law abiding. If they decide to move to another state where they're not granted amnesty or the same liberties, then at that point, I think it is completely justifiable for ICE to like deport them in this hypothetical situation.
There will be no distinction because of the way that Constitution is written between the states. You can't make that distinction, right? Like a citizen of California, if you're born and raised in California, has every right to move to any state in the United States, right? So, like once you're granted to leave to live in the United States, you're not to any one state. Right.
I don't see why you just can't make a caveat.
Because that's the Constitution. It would require a constitutional amendment. You would have to completely reframe the entire Constitution and the rights of movements across state lines, which would then also open up the idea that states can impose tariffs and duties on each other, right? Like, and part of this is because the way things happened when they did the Articles of Confederation, like immediately after the Revolutionary War, right? But like, so I think maybe there's like 2 cases in history of somebody being even exiled from a state, which is part of how you knew that the Mr. B shit was hyperbolic. Like, to be able to prevent movements between states, either have a criminal restriction. I mean, that's it. Actually, that's it. Right? And since state has no say on federal immigration, because it's, again, the federal borders must be crossed before, like, maybe you get some simultaneous cases, you know, in border states, but even then, like, it's still the federal border.
Okay, first and foremost,
into the United States.
Okay, first and foremost, just because you like these states were to like allow illegal immigrants to reside lawfully, doesn't necessarily mean that they do have to extend, right? Like, I guess in a hypothetical situation, they could amend the Constitution if that's really necessary. Keep in mind, I don't know the exact quote or clause that you're like, you know, citing, and they don't necessarily also have to like impose tariffs on each other, on other states, or taxes on other states. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case either.
It's all the same. It's all the same section. Right?
So hypothetically speaking, what's stopping a state from just seceding and doing whatever the fuck they want now?
The Civil War.
Okay, is that not what's being threatened right now?
Civil War and the Civil War, and I think after the Civil War, an amendment was. I don't remember essentially the Civil War settled the question on whether or not states have a right to secede.
I don't think you're comprehending what I'm saying.
Travel. Okay, try it again.
I'm all I'm saying is that I think in order to prevent the federal government from imposing their will on the people of the United States, I think that the states should be allowed to do this. That's what I'm arguing. I'm saying that from I want to say based on how the country was founded and based on what keeps people protected from tyranny, I'm saying that they should be allowed to do these things. Do you disagree?
Yeah. Only because but more in process and like philosophy, right? So like, I think that.
Do you not think there's a point? Do you not think that there might be a point potentially? Okay, so if you disagree with that, do you not think that there might be a point like in the future where Trump like emboldens the ICE to such a degree where they essentially just start acting as like a paramilitary force to subjugate the people of the United States into like a tyrannical overrule? Because if you're arguing the other, then surely you must agree that that's a potential possibility in the future as well.
That's really wordy. I mean, I'm always concerned with the.
Would it not be better to have like more countermeasures in place, such as states being able to protect their sovereignty, and to protect their power to avoid that occurring?
Yeah. So theoretically, right, like the avenue to control the executive is either to pass legislation that the executive just theoretically can't ignore. I mean, like at the end of the day, people can do whatever they get away with. So like taking that just off the table, right? Like just taking that off the table and assuming that everybody acts properly.
Yeah.
Right? The way that you would go after Trump would be impeachment. The way that you would go after Trump would be theoretically a convention of states. Like there's a bunch of avenues that the states go, but directly contravening immigration law can't be one of them.
Why not?
Because that breaks down the responsibility, like the responsibility for territorial integrity of the country of the United States necessarily has to be a federal issue.
Do you not think that actually minimizes the potential power that the federal government has over states, though, and can prevent Trump from essentially or future presidents from making executive actions where they can use military force to enforce like arbitrary laws?
Maybe, sure, you could have a completely weak federal government, but the thing is,
and that's fine. I think as long as
if you're going to have a nation, if you're going to have a nation, the national government has to have some powers, right? And the territorial integrity,
like organizing military, organizing commerce, controlling commerce.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So the territorial integrity of that nation is one of those powers. If you want to change immigration criteria, that's a legislative thing. If you want to pass a law that says people currently in the country has amnesty, it's a legislative thing. Right? So now, if such legislation hasn't been passed, then no, you do not get to prevent the executive from enforcing the law as it's been written and voted on and put into by the rightfully elected legislature going back to the foundation of the country.
Okay, so hypothetically speaking,
okay, go ahead.
So hypothetically speaking, if Donald Trump tomorrow writes an executive order, everybody votes on it, everybody says it's fine, we can do this. He says we're going to replace every what's it called, military reserve, and I want to say local police agent with our agents, with our ICE agents and our trained, I want to say trained officials.
This is a ridiculous example.
No, it's not a ridiculous example because you're arguing towards that. Yes, you're arguing towards that direction. That because the federal government says it's okay to control the territory, they should be allowed to do that. They should states should have no say against executive orders like that.
That's completely asinine.
It might be an extreme argument, but there could be a potential future where that might actually be the case.
No, because first of all, you're mixing terms, right? So, first I have to make sure I understand what you're saying. People wouldn't.
It's an extreme hypothetical, really, to be very specific. I know people wouldn't. I know people wouldn't do it. I know people wouldn't do it. I'm just saying that. Let's say it did.
No. In a technical sense, people wouldn't vote on an executive order. Right. Yes. That's what it means for it to be an executive order.
Yes. I know.
Now, wait. Now, secondly, so assuming what you just mean is that people pass an executive order and enough people don't fight back against it. Right? Well, the states could then sue. And if power in the executive order explicitly granted to the executive branch, then the executive branch can't make the order, right? Now, then theoretically there could be a president that just says, fuck the Supreme Court, right? In which case, there's several stages that this goes down. Now, you might think that Trump is uniquely crazy enough that he will just violate all of these things. Right?
I wouldn't go that far. It's a possibility, but I wouldn't go that far to assert that as a definite. I don't think reasonably it's we're in any danger of Trump actually going full tyranny. I think it's fair to assume that he might be playing with the idea, but I don't think he'd actually do it.
Yeah, but you can't say that states then therefore have the right to just supersede what must by definition be a federal power. There are tons of places where I think states should have rights.
Okay, Nate, but what I'm saying is there should be a potential for states to do this to avoid future tyranny, right? Because that's how the United States has always practiced. I want to say sovereignty is we should do these things to avoid a tyrannical government in the future. That is essentially how the United States has operated for the last 300 years.
No, from founding, movement and commerce between states has been on the federal level. States can't do anything to change this, right?
That's not what I'm arguing. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all.
No, but if you then allow...
Yes, I know what you're saying. I know.
Allow states to say, well, anybody can come in. There is no mechanism to prevent those people then from leaving those states unless you fundamentally rewrite the Constitution.
Yes, I know what you're arguing. You're saying, well, actually, this exists, therefore this is impossible. But what I'm saying is, I don't care if it's not possible. I think that there should be principles in place. From a principled perspective, we should uphold these values to prevent tyranny in the future, which is how the United States has always operated. Is what if we do this? We do this, and then it turns into something that prevents.
Right. Let me ask you a question real quick, just to clarify for my own head. When you say this is how the United States always operates, like philosophically,
yes,
because okay,
philosophically,
the Constitution literally the government operates. So if the Constitution says something different, then like kind of like in a literal sense, that would be wrong. But if philosophically,
yeah, I guess technically, yeah.
The federal government is meant to have as little power as possible to be able to carry out.
It's supposed to have limited power, not necessarily like little power, right? Limited power, not necessarily little. Yeah.
Anything that isn't expressly in the purview of the federal government is by default are the states. So if it's not expressly stated as something that is a federal power, is automatically defaulted to a state power, right? But it just so happens that immigration is one of those powers, right? So you would have to, despite what you're saying in philosophy, have to completely rewrite the founding document and the governmental philosophy of the United States in order to enact the thing you're saying, which you can make the argument for that. If that's the argument you want to make, fine. I'm just saying it's like the way you. I was just wanted to point out real quick, and it was difficult to chat, that the way that you're kind of laying down the argument is just full of contradictions in terms and flies against what's written.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair, but yeah, that's fair. Ultimately, like I'm not making like or at least I didn't intend to make like a definite assertion. More so, I'm saying that based on combating tyranny and combating like government control, right? Especially like overexertion of federal power. There should be like countermeasures in place that the states should uphold. I want to say more of their own power to avoid this tyranny. And I think that we're going down a path, and I think we're seeing it right now because I back during like the LA riots, I remember saying that states should not be encroached upon by Trump's ICE, right? By Trump's administrative decisions to like force ICE into their territory. Or else we might be like seeing a rise of tension. All your viewers,
if you keep talking to me, brother. So
no, it's alright. It's alright. I care more about.
You can make your point.
I care more about the conversation, right? Fuck that. I'm not optics.
I can listen from chat. It's not that big a deal.
All right, I'm not optics gay. To be very clear.
All right.
Fuck. All right, whatever. You guys are such fucking assholes. But anyways, essentially what I'm saying is that I argued prior in the LA riots that had if Trump continues down this path of forcing his utilizing his administrative power to force ICE into states, there's going to be a rise of tensions that might eventually endanger the people, or might eventually lead to deaths and lead to casualties and lead to problems, and that's what we're seeing so far. It has escalated to a point because of because of Trump's refusal to respect state sovereignty. We are now at a stage where people are getting killed, unironically, like dead ass people are getting killed. Terrible fucking verbiage to use, I know. And there are rising tensions between states and federal power. I argued this back during the LA riots. That is currently what's happening. Minnesota has threatened to utilize their national reserve, 75,000, I want to say National Guard members actively training to retaliate against ICE, to retaliate against the Trump administration. That is what Tim Walz heavily implied and heavily asserted. We're at that stage now, which is why I'm making the argument that states should be able to practice this assertion of their own power to the fullest extent. Well, maybe not to the fullest extent. I do agree that there should be like some federal, I want to say there should be some federal like restrictions so that a state in and of itself doesn't become tyrannical. A state in and of itself does not decide to basically just leave one day and then make everybody in their fucking like, and everybody in their residency, like, slaves and fucking Holocaust them, right? Of course, there should be checks and balances. However, at the same time, where are the checks and balances for the federal government when they're essentially sending their fucking police force to do whatever the fuck they want in everybody's territory without their right to say otherwise? That's my point, essentially. But anyways, let's continue. Did
not want to be arrested. And here he has another scenario, an individual ignoring directions and verbal commands from a uniformed ICE agent, a federal officer, who is then trying to make entry into her vehicle to effect detainment, possibly an arrest, to which she ignores, reverses the vehicle.
I know, are you still watching? Tell GildedPoo we can have the debate. It doesn't have to be, I can't go by schedule because I don't know if I'll be like taking a nap. I don't know if I'll be like home late or if I'll be home early. But I want to say after 7 when I start streaming, after 5 o'clock when I start streaming, maybe. I know if you're still here, you can relay that message. It'll have to be a general time after like 5 o'clock Eastern time.
With the officer attempting to open it, attached to her vehicle, and then accelerates in the direction of the officer that's holding.
Dude, what the fuck? What the fuck, dude? What are people doing?
Please end this stupid bitch. I can't sleep. They stay up all night scissoring. Do us all a favor. Please.
All right, that's not funny.
Holding the firearm. Now, in my personal opinion, it looks as though his left hip bounces off the front headlight of the vehicle as he puts his hand down on the hood and attempts to jump out of the way of the vehicle.
Attempts to jump out of the way of the vehicle as he's leaning into the fucking vehicle.
If you disagree with me and say, no, you have to be directly in front of the vehicle or it has to hit you in order for you to use deadly force, I would then ask you.
I do recognize that. I just think it's kind of silly, is what I'm saying, essentially. I'm like, okay. This is one of those times where I will outright say that, yes, my point is kind of bogus. Yes, well, one of those times. I say that frequently. My point is kind of bogus, but ultimately the philosophy should be that people should have independent freedoms. People should have independent rights. People should have, like, more freedom than the federal government tells them they do, right? Because that leads to I want to say, at the very beginning, again, your freedom of speech, thought, belief, and whatever else may be, allows people to, I guess, live without like a fucking, I want to say, king taking control of people's lives and essentially using them for whatever they feel is fucking more like. I can't fucking vocalize as well. I can't verbalize as well. But you get what I mean. You get my fucking point. I was locked in earlier. I'm no longer locked in because I'm like, I'm no longer in locked in mode. I'm in relax and see whatever the fuck people are saying mode. But yes, my point is bogus. I'm just saying that philosophically, I would like it for it to be this way, even though it's not feasible, and it probably wouldn't happen anyways because of the amendments required and the paperwork required. Because I feel like it would be more practical. It would be a more practical resolution to these issues.
Then where is the cutoff? Do you have to get hit by the vehicle? Does it have to launch?
Instead of tensions rising between states and the federal government, it would probably be more proper to give these people liberties to decide what to do, what they want to do with immigrants, right? Even if it requires certain amendments to be made, in order for there to be less federal overreach and sending police officers or sending, like, essentially secret police to where they're not wanted.
Certain distance. Does a certain amount of it have to make contact with you? And
if individual states can establish their own immigration policies, what would be the point of the nation? The U.S. should just split up. You want to know what's currently been driving that? The federal government overreaching and overstating their power.
What amount? Very clear. Do you just have to be near it? How near?
Because it's like that. Like, that's also another point that I kind of like failed to touch on. Because of the current administration, it is still there is currently more division in the United States and more states wanting to retaliate against the federal government than ever before. Well, except the Civil War, of course.
Putting your hand on top of a hood and having to do some Michael Jackson weird
if states established their own immigration
struck.
Policy, tensions would immediately arise. Maybe? If there's anything true, is that because of Trump's policy right now on immigration, tensions have already risen. Pretty immediate. Trump has been in office for a year. And there are multiple states that have already risen tensions against the federal government. We got California, we got Minnesota currently, and maybe a couple others that I can't list immediately off the top of my head.
You avoid being struck by the vehicle, not the vehicle avoiding you. From the point of a victim, I would say that vehicle is a legitimate threat to your personal safety, including a threat to your life. I would also reference all the accident videos you see where people just get clipped a little bit and fly in the air or are drug underneath the...
Okay, that's retarded. Okay. I don't even care for this guy's opinion anymore. People get clipped just a little bit and fly in the air. What? You're comparing a person. You're comparing... Dude, wait, hold on. You're comparing a car going at maybe, like... And this is with no traction, like, to be very, very clear. You're comparing a fucking car moving at maybe 5 to 15 miles an hour. Not even reaching peak acceleration. This guy moving across the fucking hood of the vehicle. Also, inserting himself in a situation that he shouldn't have been in the first place. Equivalent of somebody getting hit at probably like 30 to 40, 50 miles an hour. Where, of course, inertia is going to transfer if they get hit even a little bit. This is nonsensical. This is an incredibly impractical way of assessing the situation.
Vehicle. It's a vehicle in it. It's made of metal, right?
Not all of it. Sure, yes. But if you consider that sometimes there's parts of a vehicle that won't like immediately harm you.
I'm a dude. Just
yeah. There's ways that a vehicle can hit you or tap you or touch you or force its way onto you that won't pose harm to you.
Made out of flesh and bones, right? Now...
Okay, so now we're just heavily asserting that every single case of a vehicle being near you is going to result in immediate harm?
We move on to the shooting. Get ready for this. Let's start at the beginning. Why was Miss Good there? Well, from video that was on scene prior to the shooting taking place, and also an interview with one of the...
Okay, it's like this guy's thinking in two different fucking binaries. It's like this guy is exclusively thinking in two binaries. It's either... This is completely justified, or this is like this. She deserves to get shot, or she doesn't deserve to get shot. And even though he's trying to break it down point by point to reach an analysis, he's not considering everything in between. Did she deserve to get shot, and if so, why? Did she not deserve to get shot, and if so, why not? It's like he's arguing she does deserve to get shot. That's it. We're not going to consider that this guy could have never had put himself in that situation in the first place, thus not leading to this person getting killed. Not considering that this person could have continuously thought about the situation and probably assessed in that moment not to shoot this person. He's not considering that ICE maybe shouldn't have been there in the first place due to Trump's current administration being a little bit too extreme. He's not considering any of these caveats all of these factors that could have been completely absent and not have resulted in this person dying in the first place. It's just, this person did this, therefore they deserve to get shot.
The other protesters that were a part of Miss Good's overall group, we know that Miss Good was there to intentionally protest against the presence of ICE agents. And during the interview with the co-protester of Miss Good, the co-protester stated this.
They clearly wanted her out of there because she was the main car leading the protest, is my understanding. I talked to another guy who was driving behind her. But she was very successful in blocking traffic. She was doing what she was set out to do, and so they wanted to get her the hell out of there. Yeah.
So it looked like she was impeding ICE vehicles.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
That was her goal.
Miss Good was there as a part of a...
How do we know that?
Larger.
How do we know that 100% we're going to take witness testimony instead of taking multiple accounts? What did ICE report? What did ICE report occur? Is this statement different to what ICE reported in the moment? Is this statement different to what other people might say? I don't care about it in a single individual claim.
To protest the presence of ICE. Her job and intent was to block or barricade ICE vehicles.
Based on a singular, I'm not going to like absolutely disbelieve that this isn't the like exact case, right? I'm not going to immediately disregard this. Maybe this is 100% actually what occurred. However, to base like an absolute assertion off of one witness statement is fucking retarded, no matter which way you spin it.
From attempting to do whatever it was.
What did other witnesses say? What do other witnesses say? ICE shooting witnesses. Why was Good at the scene? Why was she at the scene in the first place? Why was there? Why was she there in the first place? I want multiple statements. Saigo's trying to justify summary execution because of woman. Absolutely. Okay. This doesn't have to be. This doesn't have to be binary, which is my fucking problem. This doesn't have to be fucking binary, right? This doesn't have to be she's not at fault at all, and it also doesn't have to be she deserved to get fucking shot and killed because this person was in fear of their life. This doesn't have to be 1 and 2. It could be 1 through 10. It could be 1. She was the initiator of the issue. It could be 2. ICE agents were just trying to do their job, and thus, because this person was obstructing their job, decided to apprehend her. It could be 3. Because of the way that they tried to detain her, it caused panic, it caused fear. They didn't practice good de-escalation tactics, thus leading to like unnecessary involvement or unnecessary use of force. It could be 4. Because of the panic that they caused, this person decided to drive away because they might have been reasonably in fear of their life themselves. Maybe they didn't want to get manhandled by ICE. Maybe they didn't want to get shot. Maybe they didn't want to get fucking kneeled on some George Floyd shit. Mind the joke. And it could be 5. Because of the escalation, this person swerved or at least drove near an officer that decided it was reasonable to shoot her because of her movement. It could be 5. It could be 6 after that. Did this person have the intent to kill this person? Was this person looking for an altercation to get involved in? Had them having exited his vehicle to position himself in front of the car, thus resulting in the shooting? It could be 7. What was his intent during the moment? Could he rationalize that he was or wasn't in objective fear of his life? It could be so many different things that people are failing to consider. People want it to be 1, 2. 1 being she's not at fault at all, even though that's fucking retarded. And 2, she was absolutely at fault and therefore deserved to get shot. When there's multiple different things to this.
And the video of her.
And when we compile all of them, depending on how you were to argue them, and depending on how you were to look at this, with all the angles, I think it would be fair to assess that that a person did not deserve to die that day. I think it would be fair to assess that even if she was at fault, this person should not have pulled out his gun, and he should not have shot her, and then continued to do so.
Doing just that shows that, yes, she was successful at it. I bring this up. Why? Well, because it shows...
And it doesn't necessarily have to be this person intentionally wanted to ram this police officer. It could have been a genuine, accident. Maybe she wasn't paying attention as this person was moving in front of the vehicle, which other footage shows, by the way, to be very clear. This footage shows that as he was approaching the vehicle, right? As he was approaching the vehicle, getting in front, she is distracted. Within these moments, she turns around as she's turning her wheel. He's in front of the car, going near it before it has a chance to lurch forward. As it starts moving forward, he leans into the car, doesn't sidestep it, even though he had enough time. He's clearly not injured after the fact, right? No, but nobody's taking any of these other factors into consideration. It has to be this person used deadly force, which resulted in this police officer being justified in shooting her in the head. Even though, per most training protocols, you're not supposed to be shooting at a person in a vehicle, or the vehicle might lose control, go into an oncoming crowd, which there were people around, or cause property damage, right? It has to be, actually, he was completely justified in shooting her because of deadly force.
The intent of the individual, Miss Good, on why she was in the area. Some stories and individuals have posted that she was a mom, caught up, confused, and trying to get out. But the video of her intentionally blocking ICE agents in her vehicle, and the video of her...
I do agree that we don't have to like make this person a saint either. We don't have to like glorify this person. We don't have to make them a saint. We don't have to like make them a martyr either. But to like justify her death is just completely fucking retarded.
Her co-protester stating that that was what she was doing, and what she was meant to do or had planned on doing, and was very successful at it, disproves that. Well, it takes that...
That's assuming that person's witness statement is absolutely true, and that there isn't any caveats to it.
Narrative of lost white woman and puts it to bed. Next portion of video, before anything really occurs, shows Miss Good still in the middle of the roadway, but at an angle, waving vehicles on. Now, some people in the comments and other posters state, see, she was peaceful. She wasn't impeding traffic, she was letting people go, which implies intent. We don't know who she was letting go or why. Unfortunately, she's dead. The only thing we know is that she was previously preventing ICE agents from driving through, but now at this moment is allowing some people through. Whether or not she acknowledges that they're civilian vehicles just going on their way or an ICE vehicle obviously is speculation. One person obviously can say that she's letting vehicles that aren't ICE agent vehicles through, which means she's letting all vehicles through. And another person could say she's letting civilian vehicles through and not letting ICE agent vehicles through, but some of them got through because they're in unmarked cars.
Hold on. I wonder if this is the same witness statement he was talking about. Because I'm trying to find more witness statement to see if there's any contradictions or if that's like a consistent story. I don't want to, like to be very clear.
Now to the protest.
To be very, very clear. While I dislike his assessment because it is very binary, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything that he's saying is untrue, right? For all we know, this person generally was being a nuisance, and for all we know, Good was being a nuisance. And this witness right here is giving an accurate recount, right? Maybe he's absolutely correct. So I want to make sure that I can, like, I want to make sure if the statements line up with what other people are saying. Okay. I felt really scared by what was happening. Was in a state of okay, and a kind of state of terror. A woman who was later identified as Minneapolis. Okay, don't care. According to Department of Homeland Security spokesperson Trisha. Okay, don't care. Attempting to run over law enforcement officers with a car when ICE fatally shot her, which there's no definitive evidence to suggest that. We can say that because of the way that the vehicle was turning, maybe that was an attempt to run her over. But then again, if we look at other angles, if we looked at we looked at her, did she have enough time to immediately like premeditate running him over, or was it like more of a fight or flight reaction? And in which case, is that enough to like measure out whether this person had the intent to run this person? Was that an attempt, a willing attempt to run this person over to like a malicious degree, or was it just her like panicking? Or did she not even notice that the police officer was there at all and was already engaging and moving the vehicle away, and he just so happened to be there because of his poor positioning? After heading west on East 34th Street and making a right on Portland Avenue, she said she saw a cluster vehicle. Okay. It appeared to me that she was endeavoring to kind of adjust her car. So, okay. At the time that she started to accelerate, one of the agents was yelling through her car window. She continued saying she saw. Okay. We already know this. I could see that her head was a little bit. Okay. I just don't know if I just don't know if this person is correct and definitively saying that her whole goal was to impede traffic and to like obstruct ICE. I want to say I don't object to the idea. It's entirely possible. And maybe she was an organizer of the of this sort of like rally, or this sort of like, I want to say, protest that led to this happening in the first place. But I just want more definite evidence before I just believe that, on his face. I just want to I want more concrete information. I want statements from people that were there and might have known the person instead of somebody who might have just been a witness and is only assuming intent.
To get out, but the video of her intentionally blocking ICE agents in her vehicle and the video of her co-protester stating that was what she was doing and what she was meant to do or had planned on doing and was very successful at it disproves that. Well, it takes that narrative of lost white woman and puts it to bed. Next portion of video before any
not true, but okay,
anything really occurs shows Miss Good still in the middle of the roadway, but at an angle, waving vehicles on. Now, some people in the comments and other posters state, see, she was peaceful. She wasn't impeding traffic. She was letting people go, which implies...
I can't find any source that gives this witness any credibility, by the way. I can't find a single source that gives this witness any credibility. I don't even believe that she was a witness. She's probably not even like a witness. All right, let's okay. Just for charitability's sake, I'm gonna be extremely charitable to what this guy's presenting. I'm gonna say that this woman is telling unobjectionably the absolute truth. Let's suppose that this person is saying the absolute truth. even if she were saying the absolute truth, it doesn't change the fact that this was a murder. It does not deter the fact that this was a murder whatsoever.
Bring compliance into the future.
Do you have evidence either way? No, which is exactly why I am like, you know, putting myself in a hard position and saying that she is absolutely correct. She knows this person. She knows what her goals were. She knows what her intentions are. Even if that was the case, it's still murder. It is still murder. Because let's say what would occur though is that, well, the only difference though is that it would have been more preventable on the other side of the aisle rather than on ICE's side, right? It would have been more preventable on the other side had they not decided to wake up one day and protest. The situation would have not occurred. And by the way, that goes against my main opinion that had ICE not been there via executive order, this death would have not occurred in the first place. I'm going to ignore my first opinion. I'm going to ignore my bias, and I'm going to say that had this person not been there in the first place, she wouldn't have gotten shot. She would not have lost life. Okay, let's start there. Let's start at stage number 1. Had this person not decided to protest and obstruct law enforcement, they would not have gotten detained. It would not have led to her getting shot. Okay, now let's go through the order of things. ICE, regardless of her actions, still escalated the situation. They still ran up to her car instead of practicing de-escalation the way that ICE.com says they're trained in escalation. It's like, okay. ICE officials use reasonable and necessary force when someone resists arrest. ICE officers and agents prioritize safety, including the safety of the people they arrest, and are highly trained in de-escalation. Every source says, again, since at least 2001, since at least 1999, every source, where the fuck is my okay. Since at least 1999, you're not supposed to shoot at moving vehicles in multiple fucking jurisdictions. There are prohibitions or restrictions on shooting motor vehicles. And according to multiple training, according to like multiple training guidelines, you're not supposed to position yourself around a vehicle that might be an immediate threat to you. You're not supposed to try to like remove somebody out of a vehicle. Police training on remove. Let me fact check myself. On his vehicle extraction contain focus on officer safety. Okay. Let's take a look at this. 2-day vehicle extraction course. Okay, this is like actually a course, not a source. Hold on. Wait, here we go. This might be a good one. De-escalating police-citizen encounters. Table of contents. Street and traffic encounters. 254. Why encounters go wrong. Case study. Street and traffic encounters. All right. We actually have case studies here. Cool. Fuck. This might actually be good. 257. Let's scroll down. To 257. All right. 257. The routine traffic stop of Sandra Bland is a prime example of mundane event turned tragic, one that likely could have been prevented using de-escalation techniques. In July 2015, Bland failed to signal a lane change and was pulled over by Texas State Trooper Brian Encinia. Encinia immediately told Bland why he stopped her. He took her license and registration. After a few moments, returned to Bland's car. Bland was irritated because she was getting ticketed for a minor traffic violation. Encinia acknowledged Bland's irritation and asked her about it. She explained that Encinia was telling her and stopped Bland when she changed lanes to get out of his way. He asked, "Are you done?" And she replied, "You asked what was wrong. And I told you, so now I'm done, yeah." Meanwhile, Bland was smoking a cigarette, and Encinia asked her if she minds putting it out. Bland asked why she had to put out her cigarette. When she was in her own car, Encinia ordered Bland to step on out now. So immediately fucking immediately escalating. This was the impetus that quickly escalated the situation. Okay, yeah. A few seconds later, as Bland continued to refuse his orders, Encinia opened her car door. For the officer, again, this is a law review of law and social justice. This is like a document that is actually shown in the school of law on what's it called on escalating factors in traffic stops. Was pulled over by Texas State Trooper Brian Encinia. Okay. Refuses order. Insignia opened her car door. Even then, Bland insisted Insignia did not give the right to do that. Okay, as Insignia, continued to remove her by force. The escalation continued for an... Okay, so this is less extreme than the events we witnessed in ICE just jumping onto her car and immediately trying to extract her from the vehicle by trying to force her door open, right? So already, they're not practicing good de-escalatory tactics. They're actually escalating the situation. As what's being shown in these videos is more extreme than what's being described in these case studies. So considering these factors, even if she was the primary cause of the issue, these ICE agents still engage in the worst possible method to resolve this issue, leading to this person losing their life. And that's not even touching into the motivations that this officer may have had while executing this person, right? So even if she was the instigator, even if she was the core of the issue, my bias aside that I shouldn't have been there, she still should not have been shot, regardless of the situation. Regardless of the fucking situation. It is still murder. Even if I am to take everything this person is saying at face value, it is still murder.
Compliance and non-compliance can change like that. Yes, officer, I'll give you my ID. Pulls out a gun and shoots him. But guys, originally he said yes, he would give him his ID and he was complying with officers.
This is a completely fucking retarded comparison.
But then moments later he shot somebody. And just because somebody's compliant at one time doesn't mean that that automatically attributes compliance later on. Knowing that the shots...
Oh my fucking god. Alright, there we go. Are we back? Are we back? Are we back? Are we back? Dude, my VPN rapes me in every fucking possible way imaginable. My VPN rapes me in every possible way imaginable. Sometimes, it just fucking completely leaks its own fucking IP address. Other times, it just fucking completely fucks my stream. I am going to do horrible things. I'm going to do horrible things. I am going to do very, very horrible things. Great All right, I think we're back. I'm pretty sure we're back. Whatever, I'm gonna continue. I'm sure that we're back. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're back. Huge. Why do you even need a VPN? Because it's only safe practice to use a VPN. Because if you're actively doing research, on multiple websites, say for example you pull up a website that is like local news, and it has and it has like, you know, your location. You will just dox where you live. You will just dox your like immediate vicinity, because most websites don't understand that they should probably give a general, like, you know, location rather than or rather like a general state or city rather than like a direct fucking I want to say region of where you live, right? So I use a VPN all the time, and every single time that like something you know, goes on screen, I always like immediately delete, even though I'm mostly on a VPN. How do you feel about anonymous sources mistaking you for purple Sacramentian? That's been going on since last year, bro. I'm surprised it's become more of a I want to say topic this, like, you know, this year. But that's been going on since like 2024, I think. People have been telling me about that person. I don't know anything about them besides them having like a very obscure kiwi farms that I have never looked at, because I don't want to know too much about the person. You know, assuming that they might be deplorable, but who knows. But anyways, the VPN just fucked my fucking stream. We went from 20 to fucking 5 viewers, dude. This is so fucked. This is so raped. Whatever, let's continue.
From federal officers. 952, more officers are being sent for crowd control, and 953, more cars are needed. 955, shutdown of 2 streets, and 956, EMS is transporting an individual to HCMC, which I assume is a medical center or hospital. At 958, another transport loaded with the victim to the medical center, along with the administration requesting a perimeter be made to assist in further evidence gathering. 1003, 2 casings are recovered. 1004.
Alright, so here's what I'm gonna do so the VPN doesn't fuck my stream. Every single time that I want to research something, even though I don't think I need to research a lot more anymore, I think I have already collected like all of the information that I have, and I've already conceded on points that I'm like obviously wrong about.
Or the
what we're gonna do from this point forward is I'm not gonna research anything, and we're just gonna focus on content. We're just gonna focus on watching videos.
To a federal building. 10:06, additional ambulances are responding, and 10:07, agitators on the east side of the crime scene.
Ali Khan, remember that time? Remember that time my VPN doxed my IP? Remember that time, Ali Khan?
Are cutting police tape. This is important. Individuals that are upset about an officer shooting are now cutting police tape and interfering with a potential homicide investigation. This is not the last time. If you're upset about investigations going poorly or having evidence thrown out that you thought was damning, it is moments like this when individuals break a police line and interfere with homicide investigations that occurs. At 10:10, more people are still needed for crowd control. 10:13, more MPD officers.
Did you see Andrew Tate get whooped by a dude? Yeah. I did see that. That was fucking hilarious. That was fucking hilarious. Did everybody was like riding Andrew Tate's dick and thought that he was gonna fucking like mop the... Look. I'm not an expert at fighting. I don't watch a lot of combat sports, but it's very obvious that Andrew Tate was never a good fighter. It's very obvious that he was just never a good fighter. I don't even know how he got a champion title, but he was never a good fighter. Multiple professionals have said that Andrew Tate is like a mediocre amateur fighter at best, right? He was never a good fighter. I expected nothing less than like Andrew Tate getting his ass fucking beat.
Officers are needed to get ICE agents to evacuate the scene, and between 10:20 and 10:26, leadership from federal agencies as well as city council members have been arriving on scene and requesting to talk to MPD leadership. At 10:27, once again, people are ripping down cordon tape, police tape, and interfering with the investigation.
Like I guarantee you, if dude, Andrew Tate versus Jake Paul, Jake Paul would unironically. Say what you will about Jake Paul would mop the floor with Andrew Tate, undeniably. All right. Andrew Tate's performance was fucking bad. It was bad. He got his ass beat harder than Jake Paul.
10:27, a crowd is surrounding officers, and by 10:30, people are ripping down tape.
I wish I could show it, but that was like DAZN. Was that DAZN or was it Misfits? Andrew Tate boxing match. What company was that? I am very afraid of Mr. Kavanaugh. I think he owns the company. I will show this though. Classic. Fucking classic. He bought into Misfits. He got an ownership stake to get on the card. So it was Misfits, right? Yeah, I can't pull that up. Yeah, I can't pull any clips of this up. I will get raped. I will get copyright struck hard. Oh yeah, he got raped. Yeah, he got fucked up.
To allow cars and vehicles to drive through a cordoned area by police that are now investigating a potential homicide. At the same time, 911 callers are stating that there's an irate man calling himself the governor and that Bloods and Crips are going to be meeting at a location, potentially, to cause an issue, which is concerning the 911 caller. I'll put the rest of the call logs here so you can read them as you like. I'll also be posting them on Instagram and Twitter. But the rest of the 911 call log states other things like...
Dude, this is actually so embarrassing. This is actually so fucking embarrassing. Wait. No, I need these. I need these. I need those open. Just in case I need to reference something. Andrew Tate was forced to accept the fight. He was fighting a Netflix star wearing pink gloves, gave him a kiss and went down on his knees near his crotch multiple times. Dude. Just fucking hit the floor, bro. It would be less gay to just hit the fucking floor. It would be less gay to just, like, you know, just go down. It would be less gay to just fucking go down and hit the floor, bro. It would be so much fucking, dude. It would be significantly less gay to just, like, miss this guy and let your fucking jaw hit the canvas, bro. Come on. All right. I just joined. What is your take on the ICE thing that happened so far? Yeah, let me ground my take. Let me ground my take for clarity's sake. My absolute take. Because I've given like a lot of opinions so far. Some of them I've had to bend the knee on and take an L on. Some of them which I'm still 100% like, absolutely certain on. I think that this is undeniably murder. I think this is undeniably murder. Right? Just to get that out of the way, first and foremost. I'm not going to buy into my own bias. I'm going to say that even if this woman was the primary instigator, she does have partial blame, partial fault for not complying immediately upon detention, thus leading into what's it called, aggression, right? Thus leading into an aggressive altercation. However, that does not detract from the fact that the ICE officers very much did not practice de-escalatory techniques that multiple trained professionals, multiple trained, officers from any law enforcement agency know about, including the Department of Homeland Security, government officials, including FBI, blah, 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 CIA, whatever else you might want to add here. They very much escalated the situation. The police officer that shot her did not need to put himself in a position like that. It was an entirely avoidable situation. It seemed like he might have purposely put himself in a situation like that as an excuse to use lethal force. But a lot of people are going to, I want to say, ignore that by saying that she was acting in a way where she intentionally meant to cause bodily harm to this person, which is going to be really, really difficult to prove. No matter which way you paint it, I think that given all the caveats and given all the details, she should not like this was an entirely avoidable situation, and there was significantly more wrong on ICE's side than her side. I think that is that is objectively the fairest take you can give. While perhaps there might have been a moment where this officer was in the right to shoot her, he could have still taken preventative action, such as not positioning himself in front of the vehicle and not shooting at a moving vehicle, not shooting at a moving vehicle, which there's been multiple policies against that for the last established for the last 20 years because of how much of an issue this was. For him to not have done that. So that signifies that this guy is poorly trained, is a liability, and will potentially end up harming more people because he has a pattern of behavior of doing this as well. Like getting himself too close to a vehicle, injuring the person that's in a vehicle, and then getting caught up in a vehicular injury or a vehicular accident. I just don't think that there's any way. I just don't think that there's any way that you can deny that this was, arguably primarily ICE's fault, even if she was the primary instigator. But that's besides the point. I don't want to watch this video anymore. This is 2 minutes long. It popped up on my feed. Let's take a look at what this person has to say.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. We are going to have to talk about.
Okay, this is so boring. This is actually so fucking boring. This is actually so boring. This is actually so boring. Do I sit through this do I sit through this with somebody who is extremely educated on the matter? Do I sit through this guy being extremely educated? Is this worth watching? Fuck. I'll watch some of it.
The provisions of section 609.06 or 609.065.
I'll put it on 2 times.
The use of deadly force by a peace officer in the line of duty is justified only if an objectively reasonable officer would believe, based on the totality of circumstances known to the officer at the time and without the benefit of hindsight, that such force is necessary to do one of the following. 1, to protect the peace officer or another.
Which is what I've been arguing the entire time, to be very clear.
From death or great bodily harm, provided that the threat, 1, can be articulated with specificity, 2, is reasonably likely to occur absent action by the law enforcement officer, and 3, must be addressed through the use of deadly force without unreasonable delay. Which is a fancy legal way of saying you need to be able to articulate a very good reason and prove to us that you really did not have any other options. Now, the imminency, that
Which, based on the information, I just don't think, and again, this could be my own bias, based on the information available, I just don't believe so. I just don't believe that he would be able to argue otherwise.
Is how quickly could this happen is always a critical component. So had the officer who discharged the firearm maybe been 30 yards down the road and had plenty of time to get out of the way, this would be an entirely different equation here. But let us remember that the officer is directly in front of
Watch something interesting, for fuck's sake. Send me something then. Send me something. Send me something like worth something else that's going on worth talking about. Because there's nothing else going on. There's nothing else. I'm sorry that you guys like to go fucking watch Slop Lio review. I don't give a fuck about that.
Vehicle at the time that she decides to punch it. But then there's additional statutes that would apply to anybody in this situation, whether they're a peace officer or not. Take, for example, Minnesota statute 609.065, justifiable taking of life. That statute specifically states, the intentional taking of the life of another is not authorized by section 609.06, except when necessary in resisting or preventing an offense which the actor reasonably believes exposes the actor or another to great bodily harm or death, or preventing the commission of a felony in the actor's place of abode. So if the ICE officer here reasonably believed that they had been exposed to a high probability of serious injury or death, not only themselves or any other fellow officers, they are justified in using lethal force. And then, and of course, Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey should know this because it is Minnesota law, and it took us all of about 10 seconds to look it up. Believe it or not, there is specific law that talks about the authorized use of force against police officers. So let's say that for whatever reason, the now deceased believed that she had absolutely every right in the world to block traffic, to go out and protest, to obstruct, hinder, delay, whatever she was doing with the ICE operations. Understand that this Minnesota law specifically states deadly force used against peace officers. Deadly force may not be used against peace officers who have announced their presence and are performing official duties at a location where a person is committing a crime or an act that would be a crime if committed by an adult. Well, it is very clear that they did announce who they were, they did announce their presence, and what was their whole purpose of being there was to round up people for what? That's right, illegal activity. Okay, and then there's one other little illegal...
Which goes into, which also goes into the argument from earlier about, would this person have to comply? Is it, did like, you know, the ICE officers have authority to detain her? And the answer is yes.
Issue that we need to discuss. And I do believe that some who believe this was cold-blooded murder are going to start beating on this drum anytime now. And I think it would be relevant if the officer was, in fact, more like 20 or 30 yards down the road and had a serious opportunity to get out of the way of the moving vehicle. Because in Minnesota, believe it or not, they have a duty to retreat. Just another strike against Minnesota, why it is really one of the most terrible states in America right now. But under Minnesota law, if you are in a public place and can safely avoid a confrontation or escape from danger, the law requires you to do so before resorting to force.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, and again, if we take this officer right here, put him all the way down the street here, then I think we could at least analyze this under a duty to retreat. But when you are a mere few feet from the front of a vehicle, which is clearly hell-bent on accelerating in your direction,
as you play a sped up clip, this guy's biased.
You don't really have that opportunity to retreat.
This is not objective. This is not objective review of the situation.
So
sped up footage, information shows that this person seemingly was distracted and didn't actually have a full hell-bent intent on fucking running this guy over. Right? To be very, very clear, she's distracted. If we play this at regular speed, she's turning her wheel as she's turning her wheel all the way as she starts looking seemingly past the police officer in the other direction. She is driving towards this direction already before this police officer makes contact with the vehicle. Here he makes contact, and she's already fully turned. I would assume that within these moments, he had enough time to retreat. Okay.
Fucking bitch.
All right. Okay, this is actually
America.
interesting.
Seeing both of these video clips, understanding the legal framework, what's your opinion? Do you believe that this was a justified use of lethal force, or do you believe this was excessive force and thus constitutes a homicide? And that is the $64,000 question. But now let's take more of a 35,000 foot view and ask ourselves this. How did we get here? How did we get here? Well,
Yes, thank you. Somebody else is saying it wasn't me. How did we get here?
You have literally every single politician from one of the two major political parties, including the most vocal of those coming from the state of Minnesota, basically calling ICE officers the Gestapo, the Nazis.
Which is entirely fair. It is an entirely fair comparison.
Things such as that, where they are essentially advocating for violence against law enforcement officers. And I want you to understand that even though you may not be thrilled with what ICE is doing, understand that ICE constitutes law enforcement and they're just out there doing their job. And they're
just out there doing their job. But what if their job is like what if their job is like okay, but what if their job is to fucking literally go out and rape your mom? Then what? What if their job is to go out and fucking molest your mom? Then what?
A time and an opportunity to fight the legality of what law enforcement has done. I've made a living out of doing that. It does not occur on the street, however. It occurs in the courtroom.
Cover Andrew Tate, fine.
This villainization, it is this violent, vile rhetoric that has come from one side of the political aisle that has created this very incendiary situation.
Okay, this guy's obviously biased, but you know what? At least he's citing law. Okay, you know what? I think this guy might unironically just be like legal mindset. This guy might unironically be like legal mindset because he's not telling us about how these laws are going to be like applicable here in practice, right? He's just saying, what's your opinion on what's your opinion on how this may apply to this situation? And then vaguely alludes and vaguely describes the situation in a way that might fit these descriptions. That seems like your employer should be arrested. but anyways, like still, but still, what? But no, what if ICE agents' jobs were to like go molest your mom? You know what I mean? Then is it okay just because they're doing their job? Just because a legal officer's like, duty is to like go molest your mom, is it okay? Because it's their job, they're just doing their job? No, obviously there's some things to like restrain against. America was not founded on just like keeling over and letting yourself get fucking raped by authority. All right, that's not what America was founded on. That is never what America is going to be about. And I didn't realize that fucking lawyers were such bootlickers.
Down there in the description box. If you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, go ahead and click on that link right there.
Anyways, all right. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this Andrew Tate stuff. It might be more fun. I think that we've exhausted some ICE talk for now, but I do want to continue to go down the research and investigation. Prosecuting ones are all right, bro. Take a look at this. This is 52
time
minutes.
To break down the great cope session of Andrew Tate. I've been making these videos for many years, breaking down the excuses that you
prosecuting ones are. Yes, that's what you meant. That's what you meant. I thought you were commenting about something else. Prosecuting ones are, yes. Defense ones are like Bruce Rivers libertarians. Fuck, dude.
UFC fighters make after a loss.
Wait, you're right. That guy might have actually been a fucking. Wait, this might actually be a This guy might actually be a prosecutor. You're right. Now I want to know. Was this guy a prosecutor? Washington Gun Law is a channel dedicated to the lawful and responsible gun owner in Washington State nationwide. This channel will help educate owners as to their rights and their responsibilities under Washington law. The best dude. This guy needs a copywriter. The best way to be the lawful and responsible gun owner is to know what the law is in every situation, how it is applied to you, in an instant that you find yourself. Okay, this guy is actually like, okay, yeah, this guy might have actually been a prosecutor, or he might be like a heavily conservative-leaning, lawyer, instead of an unbiased one. So okay, so this guy is like probably extremely biased. He looks extremely based though. He looks like a badass. He looks like a badass. This guy has a fucking face for YouTube, dude. Can we get this guy instead of Legal Mindset? I'd rather have this guy instead of Legal Mindset. Dude, this guy looks badass. I want this guy over Legal Mindset. Look at this guy.
In fact, if you're watching this video now, it is already too late. You have not been in compliance with the law.
By the way, this is one of those individuals that I was referring to. That is kind of like Mexican passing. He's white, but he's Mexican passing. You know what I mean? Hold on. I'll show you. I need to find like a really, really good comparison. I have one. I just need to like, hold on. No, well, this guy is Mexican, but he's like Euro Mexican. This guy is like Mexican, but he's Euro Mexican. See, like, okay, this guy's Mexican, but he's Euro Mexican. Hold on. I want to know this guy's like lineage. He's Cuban and Spanish? He's Jewish on his maternal side? He's Jewish on his on his maternal grandfather's side. What a mutt, dude. What a mutt. Holy. This guy's a better example than Pedro, but you get what I mean. Right? It's like he's you could probably discern that he's Mexican, but he's very, very white passing as well. Or you could probably but he's also very Mexican passing at the same time. You know what I mean? Dude. All right. Let's see what we can get here. Let's see what we can find here. Let's go to the peak points. Let's go to the peaks.
Joke fight, and it backfired because you're secretly shit, in my opinion.
Rate him when done. Jimmy went live. Rate him when done. Dude, honestly, this was a very unpromptu stream, and I had nothing planned. I might just rate him now. I thought that GildedPoo was actually going to, like, you know, debate me. And then I thought that everything after the fact was just going to be me, like, you know, just doing research on the topic. But it seems that we just, like, you know, skipped the debate entirely and went on research. I wasn't going to go live today. I did anyways. So I think right now is a good time to rate him. It's going to be fun for, it's going to be for a couple minutes. I'm still rating you. I'm looking for an excuse to like, you know, go play Minecraft. Gilded didn't see that. No, I believe they didn't see the tweet. I'm not gonna like bitch him out entirely. I'm not gonna bitch him out entirely. I do genuinely believe that he might have not seen the tweet. Possible. Okay. Because I didn't see some of his mentions on my I didn't see some of his mentions on my end either. But anyways, dude, I had like 25 viewers today, and then fucking VPN raped me 3 times, I think. Hope you all enjoyed. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you all. That's gonna be it. Bye.